Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to call our meeting to order. We're going to have a roll call by our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
Okay, if you'll please all rise, and then we'll have a pledge of allegiance led by our Deputy Mayor, Franklin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. I'd like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and to facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. To speak on an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on and give it to our city clerk's secretary staff. Speaker slips are available on the table just outside the City Council chambers, and speakers have 3 minutes to address the City Council. With that, I will get the approval of the agenda by our City Manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes to the current agenda. However, I would like to point out for the audience that last Thursday, the original agenda that was posted on Wednesday was updated. There were 2 items that were removed from it. C5, which was the University Resident Theater Association Second Amendment, which goes on the consent calendar, will be brought back in September. That was pulled by staff. And then there was public hearing number 2, which was Camino Largo Residential Development. This item was pulled by the applicant and will come back at a future date. So those are the 2 items that are no longer on the agenda if somebody was looking at them last Wednesday.
Okay, and we actually had a closed session on our acting city attorney. He's going to be a city attorney momentarily. Walter Chung will bring us out of closed session.
There was no reportable action taken in today's closed session.
Okay, we have 2 presentations this evening, and I'll come down and do the one. Our first presentation is a proclamation declaring September as National Preparedness Month. Our Fire Chief, Ned Vanderpool, is going to join me at the podium. Hand this to you, and I'll read it here. So our proclamation reads, whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has designated September as National Preparedness Month, whereas the citizens and residents of California and the city of Vista may be affected by a range of natural and man-made disasters, including droughts, temperature extremes, wildland fires, earthquakes, pandemics, hazardous releases, and technological failures leading to devastating financial losses. And whereas the city recognizes that being properly prepared can reduce fear, anxiety, and the losses that accompany disasters, and therefore believe that families, individuals, and businesses must know what to do in the event of a large-scale emergency. The City of Vista's emergency management and disaster preparedness personnel are proactively planning for natural and man-made or man-caused disasters by focusing on effective mitigation efforts, efficient and effective emergency response activities, timely restoration practices, strengthening and revitalizing infrastructure and housing, protecting the health, social, cultural, historic, and environmental fabric of the community. And whereas the loss of life and property damage can be greatly reduced if appropriate emergency preparedness measures are taken before, during, and after a major emergency, the residents of Vista are encouraged to register online with Alert San Diego and download the SD Emergency mobile app to receive notifications or emergency information related to evacuations and local disasters. So now, therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council do hereby proclaim the month of September 2022 as National Preparedness Month, and be it further proclaimed that the mayor and members of the Vista City Council urge all persons to learn what to do before, during, and after major emergencies to mitigate injuries, loss of life, and property damage. So in witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and affixed the seal this 23rd day of August 2022. I'm going to turn this over to our fire chief, Ned Vanderpool. It's up to you.
Thank you very much for your support. This is really a big deal, and it's very important that we all do lean into the preparedness side of emergency management and disaster preparedness. And I will be providing more information at my update next month on exactly what members of the public can do. And there's great information and resources available on our website as well as through the county. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I might add, it is Chief Vanderpool's birthday today. So
Oh,
happy
happy
birthday.
birthday. What a way to spend your birthday. Yeah. Okay. Our second presentation, I'd like to welcome Captain Ricardo Lopez to provide the San Diego County Sheriff's Department Vista Station update. Oh, did I have a speaker for that?
Good evening, Mayor Ritter and council members. I'm going to thank you for giving me the time to present the 2022 law enforcement update. I'm going to just go over a quick recap of what has happened in the last 6 months. Our calls for service, approximately 19,000. We are on pace to probably have the most calls of service that we've had in the last 5 years. Deputy-initiated activity, a little bit over 8,000 as everything started opening back up and more people were out and about. There was more deputy-initiated activity than in recent times. Our crime rate has gone up, 19.1. That is based on the index crime that the FBI uses. There's 8 crimes that produces the annual crime index: homicide, forcible rape, robbery, burglary, aggravated assault, larceny over $50, motor vehicle theft, and arson. So that rate is calculated by taking the number of crimes divided by the population and then multiplied by 1,000. In 2021, the FBI data collection switched to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which captures details on a single crime incident. It provides just a more accurate breakdown of crimes. Our sworn population per 1,000 currently is 0.79, kind of comparing us to other cities within the North County area. San Marcos is 0.99, Encinitas is 1.38, Carlsbad is 1.15. As you can see from the chart, in the last 25 years, since 1995, we have seen a decrease in crime here in the city of Vista. In 20 and 21, we obviously had extremely low crime rates. We did expect crime rates to increase once everything started getting back to normal, and they have, unfortunately, thus far for this year. Success in the past was achieved basically by the team effort between the Sheriff's Department and the city of Vista. The programs that were implemented and had been in place by the city council and city staff that had been making improvements since they were implemented still are there, and we will start building on them as things have started opening up. These improvements assisted our patrol deputies and our community-oriented policing and problem-solving unit in addressing crimes that impact the residents of Vista. Some of these are the homeless strategic plan, as everyone here is aware of. So with that, we have the homeless task force and housing resources for the homeless. The COPS team works diligently with working every single week with City Public Works and other community entities to assist those suffering from homelessness by providing resources. I'm happy to report that in recent months, we have seen a success in some of our long-term unsheltered residents being able to use the resources available who have found some housing thus far and seem to have been using the resources effectively. As you know, we have in the past assisted ABC with alcohol beverage control, and we will continue doing those operations. We conduct inspections and details around the city over the services and selling alcohol to minors. City licensing assists in those cases. Our city's crime-free multi-housing and graffiti abatement have been instrumental in educating and reducing crime. I can't speak more about our crime prevention folks that we have. They've done an outstanding job in going out, educating residents, communities. I'll show you some photos of them doing Back to Neighborhood Watch and just being out there in the community on a pretty much on an everyday basis, just educating the public and trying to do what they can to make themselves not crimes of opportunity and victims of things that can be avoided. We target tobacco use by minors through education, inspections, and details. And then we've been monitoring our marijuana dispensaries and addressing illegal dispensaries, which we have had none in the last 6 months with the help of city code enforcement. The rise in the crime rate, as you see, up to 19.1, can be attributed to a couple of things, mostly because we've had a 41% increase in larceny and theft offenses when compared to the same period in 2021. This increase is largely due to shoplifting incidents. Thefts from vehicles is also 26% higher than the same time frame in 2021. And then finally, the rise in vehicle thefts is something that we've been addressing. We had increases month by month, at the beginning of the year, a spike in February, a little bit of drop in March, and then going up a little bit and then coming down. In August, we've had a great reduction in vehicle thefts, but it is something that we're working on every day. They have been the top cars that have been stolen. Traditionally, it still continues to be the ones that the Honda Civics and the Accords have always been a target and still continue to be. And then within the last couple of months, and the last month specifically, the recoveries are occurring in the middle part of Vista. So we are seeing that they are being stolen, but recovered still inside of the city. What we've done to reduce all of this is we have gone out with our crime prevention, assisted by our senior citizens and our senior volunteers who've been working at distributing flyers in area that have been targeted for vehicle theft. They've gone out to the communities, they've gone out to apartment complexes, they've gone out to places where we have seen a spike to leave flyers and talk to the residents and look for things that have been left in vehicles and that are making them a target for vehicle thefts and from thefts from vehicles. An issue that has been one that has been here in the past and still unfortunately continues to be is the domestic violence. 38% of assault cases were domestic in nature. It is something that the Sheriff's Department has addressed in the past and will continue to work on that through communication, through education. We have more Spanish speakers now than we have in the past. We have about 15 deputies, and that assists with some of the communication issues that have existed. But we do have public safety announcements on social media. We have deputies who provide resources in person to victims. That is something that we've been doing for quite a while. So every person, every victim that unfortunately is a victim of domestic violence is provided resources. It is mandatory, and it is something that we emphasize to them to take advantage of, and please use the resources that are available. We're working to establish classes through the community groups. We've had some great relationships with some grassroots community members here who have worked with us to educating the public about domestic violence and the resources available for the victims. The City of Vista website provides domestic violence victims with links to resources. And we did produce a Sheriff's Domestic Violence video, a public service announcement, which I'm going to play right after this. It's a short video. It's offered in English and in Spanish. It's on our public website. I'm going to play it now. That public service announcement was put out during a community engagement event that we had. And like I said, it is offered in Spanish as well. Community engagement is something that's very important. It's very important for us at the sheriff's station. We have been, now that everything has opened up, we are back out in the community. We are back out to we believe we got a chance to restart with everything and just kind of start all over, establishing some relationships that we might have not lost just because we haven't had any communication for a while. So we've been out there, back out with our community-oriented policing and problem-solving unit. We participated in the Summerfest. We started the bike patrol. We put our cops deputies in the bike class. And we did have some bicycles that had already been purchased from the city years back. And so we were able to get back on a bike patrol, and they've been trying to go out to the Vista Village on a consistent basis when they can. The plan is to have them out there during Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays in the afternoon, maybe early evening, but not when it's dark, just out there when there's mostly people out in those areas. Deputies participated in some readings to some school children, and we will continue doing that as school now has opened, school has started again. We participated in the City of Vista Leadership Academy. We had a portion in it where we spoke to the citizens that participated in there and give them a brief overview of the Sheriff's Department, what we do, and then had them do some scenarios, kind of put them in what a deputy experiences and kind of their reactions to some of the things that we have encountered. Our crime prevention outreach, we started Coffee with the Community when I got here. We will be doing those throughout the city for the rest of the year and on. We had our National Night Out event out here in the city parking lot. It was a good turnout. We had a lot of people participate and come out from the city, offered a lot of resources, and had some ice cream there as well. We had a canine demonstration from one of our female deputies up in Fallbrook. Our crime prevention went out to Neighborhood Watch and continues to go out to Neighborhood Watch meetings. They've been getting requests to go out and talk about Neighborhood Watch and how to start something like that. So they've been going out there, whether they had a place to do it or not. We've done it in a parking lot when there wasn't a community room available, and it just made more sense because that's somewhere where the residents were available to, and could participate. And then happy to have the City of Vista Junior Deputy Program back this fall. And we're very excited to be participating in that. I never participated in it, but I know that, that some of the deputies that are still here did, and they speak very highly about that. This is an old photo, so hopefully we'll have something new here by the end of the year. And then we continue to use social media to push out and communicate with the citizens on Twitter and Nextdoor. And we will continue to push out events and any critical information that needs to go out. It's usually posted on our Twitter or the Sheriff's Department Twitter page if it's something of a greater scale other than just here in Vista. The last thing I want to say is that, you know, our community is something that we have embraced, and we have taken on basically the challenge of getting back out there into the community and establishing those relationships. Our community inclusion director, Edith Sanchez Cruz, has been phenomenal in going out and making contact with different community groups and just extending our services out to them and letting them know that we're there to assist them and that we're there to be a part of the community. That is all that I have. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Go ahead.
Captain, one of the things on, I believe it was your first slide, it said that the number of deputies per, number of sworn deputies per 1,000 population was 0.79, and I think that should be 0.90 or higher. Seeing the number of deputies we have in-house compared to 100,000 population.
Yes, those were the latest numbers that were provided by our analyst.
We'll have to take a look at that
Yeah.
because I think just doing the simple math, the number's higher. So we'll have to take a look at that.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you very much, Captain Lopez, for giving us and the public some more information regarding our public safety and law enforcement. And I just want to thank you personally because I have seen you out in the community, and it makes a huge difference when we have individuals who speak Spanish, because we do have such a large population of residents in the city of Vista who speak Spanish, and they're able to, voice their concerns and have a different type of engagement than they've had before. And it's so important for everybody in our community to be able to have these conversations. And, I did attend the forum that was provided in Spanish. It was really great. But seeing the rise in our crime index and going through the reasons, in particular, looking at larceny and thefts and vehicle thefts, and then domestic violence continuing to be such an issue, as people's economic opportunities dwindle, we would expect that there would be some kind of reckoning. And unfortunately, that's something that we're seeing here in the city of Vista. But there was really something very important that was stated by one of the deputies at the forum here at Morris Vance just a few months ago. And that was in relation to vehicle thefts and some of the crimes surrounding going into vehicles and taking things out, is, hey, the best, safest place that you can park your car is where there's light. We've had an incredible conversation, discussion over the course of multiple council meetings, me and my colleagues discussing the issue of not enough lighting in certain areas. So, at least from my perspective, I think it's extremely important that when we move forward with our, $1.2 million or so that we have allocated for lights, that this is something that we work with the Sheriff's Department to analyze where certain lights would be most appropriate to bring about and enhance the safety. Because I've been talking to residents over by Redlands, kind of by the skate park, and there's been a recent concern of certain issues happening there. So, that's something that I really hope that we can work in tandem with law enforcement to figure out the best opportunity to enhance public safety with this money that we've allocated for lighting. Outside of that, it really is concerning. I have so many different stories over the last year from constituents who have said, my brother's car was stolen. He was working out. He came back and his car was gone, right? Fortunately for that individual, the car was located, right? But this is a huge concern. And one of the issues that we continue to see is as we become more dense, there are more and more people that have to park further away from where they live, therefore increasing the opportunity for a crime like this to occur. So I just really want us as a council to have conversations about the real situations that are happening on our streets, and in particular, look at the public safety issues that happen when we are increasing density but not increasing the infrastructure necessary to keep people safe, or at least to reduce the opportunity, the environment of opportunity that someone who is looking to do vehicle theft. They might be in an area where they feel comfortable doing that because there's not a lot of eyes or there's not a lot of light. Understandably, if we could put the slide up that has the heat map where we've been seeing the crime, that would be great because, this is, let me see if, there we go. Oh. It's all good. We had it for a second. But I think it's just such an important, it's such an important slide for the community to see and I think for us to have moving forward a more thorough discussion. Because on this heat map, you can see that there are areas that coincide with very low visibility at night. So I just want to make the point very clear that I think we need to work with our law enforcement when it comes to surveying where there's lights and where there's not lights, and then where certain crimes are occurring, where perhaps there are lights, what is the environment there, right? Are there different things that we can do to activate it? Because there's unfortunately a lot of our crime index increasing because 41% increase in larceny and thefts. I mean, that's huge. And then when it comes to domestic violence, I really don't feel like we have the services necessary. Not everything can be something that's within the purview of law enforcement. I really do believe that we have to have a more comprehensive strategy to reduce domestic violence in our community, because this is just what goes reported. There's so much that goes unreported. I want to also thank you for the bike patrol. This is something that I've been asking since, captains ago. I remember when I first came on and I had a conversation with Captain Reilersdam, and I was like, hey, I really want to see more deputies on the bicycle, right? And he was like, it's a really difficult program, right? There's a lot of training involved. And I know with the pandemic, it was difficult to get that, but it makes a difference in our community. And I've gotten a lot of positive responses about seeing our deputies on bicycles. I don't know if it's appropriate for them to be upgraded to an e-bike because when I saw them, it looked like they were pedaling pretty hard. But in any case, that is definitely something that I personally would like to see continue in our community. And I would love to know how we could support our law enforcement with creating these different types of patrolling in our community. And I think it's a great way to open up communication with the public too. So I'm just really thankful for your leadership. I could probably go on and talk forever about different things that I like and other things that I would want to change. But I think we're at a really good place right now to start having more comprehensive discussions about crime, which include where can the city get more return on investment for infrastructure upgrades, such as lighting. So, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Thank you very much. I just join with you in saying that I strongly support more lighting as well, and been happy to join you in supporting that, and will continue to. But I think in addition to passive safety measures, I'm glad you talked a little bit. The actual number should be 0.84 or 0.85. We have 98,500 residents according to the census, which is still fairly fresh. And we either have 84 or 85 deputies on our payroll for the city of Vista. When we look at the number of deputies that are stationed here that serve the surrounding area, we have to also include the population for the surrounding area that's not resident within the city of Vista to calculate that number. So that number still sort of stays about the same if we look at the larger service area and compare apples to apples on those numbers. But I'm really glad that you brought it up because this is something that I campaigned on 8 years ago and promised to work to hire more deputies. We've hired 15 new firefighters in the last 15 years. We're looking as a council right now at adding 6 more, and I think we should do that. As you noted, many of our neighboring cities have a larger number of deputies per 1,000. They also have a smaller number of crimes and calls for service. So Vista has been routinely one of the busiest stations for the sheriff's contract cities. I think perhaps on a basis of calls per 1,000, we're, if not the very top city in the county, we're amongst the very top. But we're not amongst the top when it comes to the number of deputies that we have on patrol or the number of deputies that we had to respond to calls. So, we've had different leaders from your department in the past have given us different information, but I would ask you, and it looks like basically we've returned to pre-COVID crime numbers. Maybe we're 1 per 1,000 higher than we were the last couple of years before the pandemic. I think also very concerning, and I think the community knows that in fact crime is probably a lot higher than it was in years past because while the numbers seem to be a little lower, we've declassified a lot of felonious crime as misdemeanor, and some misdemeanor crimes aren't even getting reported anymore. So I think we have a reporting change to factor into our crime stats. That's very important. But my question to you is, do you feel, given the comparison of calls for service, the high crime in our city, and the lower comparative number of deputies serving our population, do you feel that you have enough deputies to do the job? And not just to do the job, but do you feel that you have enough deputies to spend the time necessary with the community to forge strong relationships, to build goodwill, and to build trust and rapport and relationships with our community?
I think in my position, we could always use more. And we could always use more deputies, whether it is in patrol, detectives, or other uses. But I think that for the amount of crimes for service that we have here, for the most part, yes, we could use some additional deputies with the growing community here in North County, not just with us, but taking into account that other communities are also growing, and therefore the population around us is growing as well. So I think it would be prudent to add deputies for the variety of positions that we have here, and not only here, but within the department, because as you know, not only the deputies, they're a regional asset for us as a county, so they go on to other positions as well. So those opportunities exist for deputies to move on to others. But I think for the amount of crime for service calls that we have here and the amount of increase that we have seen, I'm not going to say that we will do with less, but we can for sure do more with more deputies out in the street.
If the number of citizens grows, but the number of deputies stays the same, does that mean that you have less resources to police the population? In other words, if we add 15,000 new residents that have a proportionate number of calls for service, but we don't add deputies to serve those 15,000 people, do you find that that means that there's a reduction in policing?
I think that if you have deputies there that can effectively do the job and can spend the time that is necessary, whether it's during the call or after the call or during follow-ups, detective work and such as that, it's always going to be a plus. I know the city has added deputies. I think in the last 3 years, they've added deputies every year. So it does, our COPS unit does a lot of work for the city, for the residents, and they are kind of used quite frequently at a variety of different positions and different assignments within the city. So,
The council has added 3 deputies in the last 8 years that I've been a member of the council. 2 of those were by action of this council. and one was through a negotiation with the county that came along with our giving a special use permit to the crisis stabilization unit here in Vista. So, I mean, obviously from my perspective, I make no secret of the fact that I think as the population grows, if we don't also grow the number of teachers and firefighters and sheriff's deputies to serve that population, then we're providing a reduced level of service to that larger population. So I think it's a super important issue, and I appreciate you bringing it up, and I appreciate your candor on the subject. You know, and it's not just about responding to 911 calls, although that's the most important thing that you do is help people in their greatest hour of need, but I think it's incredibly important that deputies have that time to spend with the community, even if it's just a minute of conversation that they have with somebody after a call, and they're not, you know, 3 calls behind that, and they need to get to the next call, so they have to run immediately. But if they have just a little bit more time to build that rapport with folks, I think, you know, most of us don't have daily interaction with the sheriff's department. So in the times in our lives when we're in our greatest hour of need and you're there for us, that you have an extra minute or 2 to spend with us is a really big deal. So that's my vision for, you know, how we provide better service and build stronger bonds and rapport with our community. And I really appreciate, I've been to all of your public outreach events. Captain, you've been doing a phenomenal job with that. Your outreach staff is phenomenal. You've got some really great people right now doing the public outreach for you, and I really appreciate the team that you've assembled and the good work you're doing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Captain Lopez, for being here. Super appreciate it. Love all the information. A couple questions that I had for you, and I was just kind of looking at your numbers, because initially it did worry me when I saw, hey, 15.2, 15.1%, all the way jumped up to 19.1% in 1 year. However, when I looked back at the other years prior to COVID, it looked like over the past 5 years, in 2017, we were at a crime rate of 18.9%. And at 2022, we're at 19.1%. So over the 5 years, we've had a jump of about 0.2 of a point, which I don't think is too horrible. My question to you is, those other cities that you mentioned, how is theirs, not just from this year to last year, but over a 5-year period, have most cities stayed relatively the same? Have other cities jumped up? I mean, do you have the information on that, or are you only privy to the information on our city?
I think it's safe to say that the majority of the cities here in North County have seen an increase across the board, especially when we're talking about 2021 numbers. The increase for us in particular for this first 6 months, we have seen a significant increase in theft related,
Gotcha.
Whether it's thefts from vehicles, that includes all thefts. So that's someone takes a license plate from a car, someone takes any part from a car, unlocked vehicles or locked vehicles, all of that is included, and then thefts, larceny, shoplifting, all of that. So we have seen an increase in thefts, but across the board, I think here in North County and in the county, we've seen an increase in that.
Okay, well, I mean, it's, and like kind of what I was trying to get at is, it doesn't look like it's a huge, we're not running rampant with crime as far as, it went from 18.9% to 19.1% over a 5-year period. That was kind of my question is, the other cities, are they about a 0.2 of a increase over the 5-year period, or are there cities that have done a lot worse? And kind of what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to paint a picture for you here of, you mentioned the officer count per 1,000 of the other cities, and I'm a big data junkie, and I love your candor as well, talking about, hey, obviously as we increase the population and the density, we need to increase the infrastructure. But I'd also like to kind of, see, based off the number of sheriff's deputies that they have, are their crime rates low, or are their crime rates, reducing? Are their calls for service less? Kind of my question for you, and you're really the only person who could answer it, is would you say that our sheriff's department in the city of Vista is more understaffed than our surrounding cities? And are our deputies taking more calls for service on average than other deputies from other cities?
I don't have the exact numbers, especially going back for some years for the other cities around here. I do have some of the crime rates for the other cities that were provided. And I think, unfortunately, I don't have the numbers before that, so I cannot say that it's an increase. But I know just in speaking to my peers, they have seen an increase. in the same kind of issue, the thefts in general. And so your question is,
From a staffing perspective, I'm wondering, are you actually understaffed? Like, do you have sheriff's deputies who are having to pull multiple shifts because we only have 0.79 deputies per 1,000 and you have so many calls coming in because we have a jail in the city of Vista? Our number one priority in the city is to make sure our city's safe. So your report to us is to say, hey, this is how safe your city is. So that's kind of what I'm wondering is, hey, are our guys understaffed? Are they at the top of their game when they're out there protecting our community? Or we got these guys running all over the place and we really do have a solid need. The reason why we activated the 4th ambulance and added all the additional firefighters is because we have a lot more calls for service, we have a lot more population, and we had a huge need. And, 3 ambulances couldn't get the job done because there's too many people who need help. So that's kind of what I'm getting to you, is it's a numbers thing, but if you look at it and you say, hey, the other people who are at 1.5 deputies or 1.2 deputies per 1,000, their crime rate is 0.5% higher than ours. And there's, I'm just kind of trying to compare apples to apples per se, because and I know that that's kind of the science everybody tries to get to is, hey, is having more deputies relative to having less crime, or a lower crime rate? And is there a direct effect? We know we can pump money into a lot of different areas, which we have with social workers and deputies and lights. But, you with the guy boots on the ground, I'm assuming you see the schedules. You talk to your guys who show up every day. Your sergeants talk to them every day. How they feeling?
I think there's no secret that law enforcement, we've had some difficulties in recruiting across the board, and not only here in this county and the city, but everywhere in this country. And we have taken some steps. The Board of Supervisors has taken some steps to up the incentives for those that have already graduated from the academy to lateral over. We are currently understaffed in that we have vacant positions that we, at the moment, are not able to fill, but there is relief coming in that we are still having academies. We just had an academy that graduated last week, a regional academy. We just started a new academy. So we are seeing those numbers increase, and hopefully with that, we are going to see the numbers of vacant positions diminish for not only here, but just across the board. I think all law enforcement, because we are short-staffed, they have been working very hard, and they have been working overtime shifts, but they continue to go to work every single day. They put in a hard day's work, and whether we're short or not, the deputies go out there and perform their job like they do any other day, any other period of the year. So I'm happy to report that has always stayed the same.
Of course. Good.
Councilman Green, if I could add, maybe the captain can mention, when you are understaffed as a department as a whole, how does that affect the contract cities versus the county areas?
Perfect.
So
Contract cities made whole first?
Yes.
So we always have our sheriff's deputies, even if you're running short in other cities, like in the county areas, the contract cities are taken care of first. So we always have, 84, 86 sworn on at the time?
Yes.
Okay. You did talk about recruitment and stuff, and say in the future our council decides to hire some more sheriff's deputies. Are you guys in a position where you have sheriff's deputies, needing them all over the place, spreading thin all over? Is there another way about it?
We will. I believe we will. It definitely is improving, so I believe that we will.
All right. And then my last question for you, which is my favorite question, actually 2 questions. But number 1, you talked about Neighborhood Watch. When I was a kid, man, I remember seeing those little orange and white signs up in the side, and they had the man with the big hat and the trench coat out looking at you. I see you've been doing meetings. How would our residents reach out to you, or us as council members set up like a community awareness meeting to say, hey, if you want to set up a Neighborhood Watch that's tied into our local sheriffs, this is how you do it?
You just need to contact the sheriff's station, and we take those calls all the time and set up community meetings. Anybody who wants to meet, we will gladly meet with them and arrange any meeting. We've had an increase in calls for people interested in setting up Neighborhood Watch and the steps to do that. So
do you guys provide the signs with the orange and white and the little top hat guy?
I don't know if it's orange and white anymore.
Ah, man. And then the only other thing is with the school district, she talked about Captain Ryler's Dam. He did do, coffee with the captain. I know that you do something like that as well. Our deputies used to do Read Across America and the Tunnel of Kindness for the kids. And I just want to make sure that, I know you're probably speaking with the community engagement department there. And your lady, Chloe, who's been boots on the ground and one of the happiest, brightest sheriff's deputies I've seen on site, has been super amazing. So I like to do all those too and be on boots on the ground as well with you, so I appreciate you guys making sure that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Lopez, for providing this update. It's really good to see the increase of community engagement. I know that you're fairly new to Vista, coming back, and being able to serve in this role and make those connections in the community, just even from the photos, it was really cool to see. Some of my concerns, I totally feel some of the concerns from my colleagues here. I would say that for me, my goal would be to support initiatives that reduce those calls to service, right? So things like better lighting, better community well-being, healthier families, right? Things that would reduce the need for someone to call the sheriff, and therefore there'd be less of a need for us to provide, increasingly more staffing infrastructure for those calls. So anything that I can do, right, as a representative to support initiatives that reduce those calls to service and kind of create a culture in our city of Vista that allows problems to be resolved in, right, a person-to-person way, or just with common sense solutions like improved lighting so that there's less likelihood for someone to, try to steal a vehicle where it's perfectly well lit. I really appreciate all the data that's provided too. I'm wondering if, the greater amount of sunshine, right, and light during the summer months kind of allowed that vehicle theft by month to drop down a little bit, right, with more visibility. I don't know, just trying to understand, right, what we're seeing in front of us and seeing in our community. I think one of my biggest concerns is the domestic violence concerns. So it's really challenging, right, because y'all have those calls come in and you go to the incident, and at that point the incident's already happened, right? And that hurt has already happened between those partners or from one person to another. And it's great that we're able to respond to the calls after this occurs, but I also want to know what kind of interventions can we offer to families that are experiencing domestic violence, right? Whether that's, experts in counseling or, family well-being programs, right? Any kind of assistance that could support someone after this happens, or even prevent something like this happening, because these crimes are crimes that can happen again and again and again and be very repetitive for someone who's in a domestic violence situation. And I'm not sure what your statistics are on the reoccurrence of domestic violence, right? If you do get a particular call, how likely is it for the perpetrator of the domestic violence to commit the crime again, right? So I don't know if you could speak to that. What kind of interventions can we offer that really help solve that family crisis that someone's experiencing?
I think that the goal for us is to obviously reduce the number of calls for service by having people educated, vehicle thefts being one, obviously the reduction in vehicle thefts and things of that nature, of them understanding that crimes of opportunity exist and that a lot of people believe that it can't happen to me, or this won't happen to me, and we kind of point that out. In terms of domestic violence, those resources, that's one of the issues that we've been trying with our community groups to try to push out the knowledge that those resources are available before all of this occurs. I know we were at our at our Spanish meeting that we had, community meeting, we found out the Vista Community Clinic offered a lot of resources, and we have been in communication with them to kind of create something that we could also offer that beforehand, and even after that the services are available here. I think sometimes when we hand them a pamphlet that has countywide resources, they sometimes look at that and they're not familiar with it, but something that might be local, we believe would definitely help out with them, even as simple as it's here, it's somewhere that they can walk to, or something that, you know, they can talk to somebody in person instead of talking on the phone. So I think that would help, but that's always our goal, to get that message out and those resources out beforehand. And I know we've had some help, and we'll continue. When we were out at National Night Out, we did have some community groups that we have spoken that have come and spoken to the deputies in the past, kind of offered the services and the resources that they have available as well. So we're going to continue and build those relationships back up, which, you know, we've been lacking in the last couple of years just because of lack of contact.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that totally connects, right? The goal is to prevent, right, something like this happening. And something that I see as a pattern in the community is the connection between housing instability and domestic violence, right? If someone doesn't have options to leave their housing situation, or they're having issues finding that affordable housing, I believe that that's a really strong component as to, you know, why some of those toxic cohabitation situations can occur, where, you know, people who really need to be apart from each other simply cannot afford to be apart from each other. And so that's kind of, I'm thinking big picture, right, about well-being in the community, and that goes along with a lot of my goals with affordable housing and just healthy families in general. So thank you for letting me know that you're actively looking for, you know, supporting characters, right, who can provide those intervention services. You know, there's a lots of people in the community that are trained to screen for domestic violence, that are trained to know what it looks like, right? So if those people can be working with our sheriff deputies and can make that connection before great harm occurs, I think that would be really awesome. And another thing I wanted to mention, it wasn't really on your report, and I'm not sure if it's because it's like a different type of criminal activity, but a lot of people are concerned about traffic violations and traffic safety. It just seems to get worse and worse every day, right? I almost got hit by a car the other day. It was, the light turned green on my end. Thank God I paused, and the car next to me also paused. We didn't go through. And someone just barreled through the red light there. So I think that that's something that people are seeing again and again and again, and it's this increase of lawlessness around just obeying those basic traffic laws. And, you know, what can we do, right, to create a different kind of culture around, you know, our traffic laws?
I think traffic, you know, there's a lot of congestion here around the major streets here, and we do have 3 motor deputies that recently got off training and have been out there. I don't know if you've seen them out there. They've been out there once they got off training. They've been out there the last couple of months and working very hard at issuing citations in our problem areas, along with our 7 traffic deputies as well. So we do have a rather large traffic unit. And they are busy in that they're out there in our problem areas. So we do see exactly what you're talking about. I think it still comes down to more education, more people being aware of some of the traffic laws, and really that we're there, you know, that we're visible and that we're there, and that we're issuing citations when is necessary, because there are some concerns over some of the intersections here that it just seems to be something that has been going on, and it's going to be a continual problem just because I think the greater the road and the speed and and things of that issue, but it's something that we are consistently working at every day.
For sure. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective and these updates with us. And that's all I have. Thanks, everybody.
Mayor, if I could just add a few things here. One, I wanted to let the council know that I think you all know that we went out for an RFP for street lighting with the SDG&E approved vendors, and that RFP is due back late this week. So we should have some results coming before you soon. And then the other thing is we are going out for a transportation planning grant that will help increase safety in and throughout the city, and we're going to apply for that in September. So I did want you to know we're active in that front.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thanks for that update, Patrick. And literally one thing that I would love to see is to take these heat maps, right, overlay them, and compare that to where we have streetlights and where we don't. I think it's a very simple, cost-effective way to try and reduce crime. So that's something that I'm going to continue to advocate for because, you know, a deputy is great, but when there's no lighting, it's a $25,000 pole versus $275,000 annually cost for a deputy. So I really am super excited to see this RFP come back and for us to really combine our efforts with law enforcement to address some of these situational crime opportunities in our environment. I pressed my button to talk again because I forgot to ask you a question regarding the increase in crime. Are we also seeing an increase in ghost guns? Because I know that has been a topic of conversation, but I haven't heard about it from our captain yet. So I wanted to ask about ghost guns and if you could give us a little bit more information about what's happening on that front.
We have recovered some ghost guns during some arrests and some contacts that we've had. I don't think it's a great number of ghost guns that we recovered, but it is something that we are constantly looking out, and we have had them here in the city. I don't remember the number of exactly how many ghost guns, but I believe it's the last report that I saw. I believe it was less than 12. I think for the year. I think it's even lower than that.
Okay, that's good to know because I know it's been a topic of conversation that some have been, you know, I remember our district attorney, Summer Steffen, in the last meeting that I saw, which I want to say was earlier this year, and I can't remember what community meeting it is because we do so many community meetings, but she was addressing ghost guns. So I wanted to make sure that I asked that question because obviously that, I don't even know what the solution is to that, right? But to hear that it's not an extreme amount, but, you know, is 12 more than 2, right? I don't know if that trajectory is going this way. And if it is, what we can do as a city to address that.
I don't want to say that that number means that we don't have any ghost guns. It's just those are the ones that we've been able to recover or find on persons, and we do find firearms on persons that we contact. So I think with the increase in deputy-initiated activities and some of the work that's being done, not only by us but by other units and other the surrounding areas, just adds to being able to more contacts and being able to get these guns off the street. But it is still of concern and something that deputies deal with on an everyday basis, that fear that those guns are definitely out there.
Okay. All right. Well, and just the last thing, because you had mentioned it in one of your comments, that at the community forum, there's a discussion about resources. And I think, you know, I got to see that discussion unfold. And we all in that room learned a little bit something new. So, you know, these community engagement forums are extremely important because we found out about Vista Community Clinic and some of the resources they have available. We found out, you know, for our youth who are at risk, different resources that they can connect with, the fact that there's even transportation for them, right? So I really do believe in funding those types of interventions to the highest degree possible. But yeah, I can't thank you enough for leading these community engagement forums, because literally we all get to learn a lot more. And I think collectively, when we can put all our resources together that are out there, we can, one, audit them, make sure that they're working, and then enhance them. And then we can actually start looking at, okay, what are gaps in our system where a different program or more funding or, additional traffic officer, or, another cops deputy, right? Whatever the case might be, could make a really big difference. So I just really want to thank you. And I had that one last question about ghost guns, and I appreciate the information.
And just kind of goes along with the sheriff's report. It's from my announcements later, but the Vista Sheriff Station is also hosting a Guns for Gift Cards event this Sunday, August 28th from 9 to 2 at the Vista Traffic Court parking lot. So participants can turn in their unwanted gun for a gift card. I don't know that they'll turn in ghost guns, but they'll any gun will do, I think. So anyway, so that's going on. So I just put that with the sheriff. And thank you so much for your presentation, and we appreciate it. And it's very thorough and good discussion from all the council members, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the deputies that do the work out there and everyone that works at the station, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
We love our deputies. Okay, so that takes us to our consent calendar. The recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public may remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of the calendar. And we have 7 consent items this evening, with C5 having been removed from the agenda. In accordance with the Government Code 54953.3, I'm providing a summary of item C7, appointment of city attorney, and upon the retirement of City Attorney Darrell Piper on June the 3rd, Walter Chung was appointed acting city attorney. Having determined that Mr. Chung has the necessary background, education, and experience, the City Council desires to enter into an employment agreement formally appointing Mr. Chung as city attorney at the annualized salary of $250,000. So with that, I would look for a motion for the consent calendar, and Councilmember Contreras.
Yes, I don't want to pull C8, but I do want to have it noted that that will be a no vote for me on C8. Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez.
I was prepared to make the same comment, so no need to hear C8, but I want to record my vote as no.
Okay, do I have a motion for,
So moved.
okay, do I have a second? Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second, and they'll record those, both of you, as no's on number 8. So please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our first public hearing. We have 2 public hearings this evening, with item public hearing PH2 was continued for a future meeting at the request of the applicant. For our first public hearing is regarding a fire inspection fee adjustment, and the public hearing is now open. Our Fire Chief Ned Vanderpool is going to introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are coming before you today to ask for an amendment to the fire inspection fee schedule in response to AB 38. AB 38 is a assembly bill that was put in place to help with home hardening, and the goal is really to prevent large-scale wildfires. What this specific item does is it adds a $50 fee to a inspection that we perform when there's a transaction of a home for sale in the very high or the high fire hazard severity zone. So what we'll do is we'll go out there, do an inspection of that property, looking at the defensible space and the home hardening efforts around that property. And once that is all taken care of, then the seller gets that notice that they've passed that inspection, and then the transaction of the sale can occur. What we're requesting is a $50 fee to be added to the fee schedule, and that covers the cost of the inspector going out to the property and the associated paperwork that goes along with it. That is the end of my report.
Thank you. And speaking to other realtors, I found out that that's the most reasonable fee of any city in our county. So I would make a motion. I would close the public hearing and make a motion for that. And I don't see any speakers here. Anybody else?
A second.
I have a second. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't push the right button. Councilmember Contreras, sorry. When I voted, I had to push another button.
You know what? I think this is from the last time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Cleared. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. So see no further discussion and no speakers, right? We will cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to public hearing number 3, as number 2 is continued to a future date. Our next public hearing is regarding an appeal of planning case number P21-0130, Melrose Way 15 Lot Subdivision Project. Public hearing is now open. Community Development Director John Conley will introduce the item.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Rafi Mangasarian, our Associate Planner, will be providing the presentation this evening.
Yes.
Mr. Conley, before you get started, Madam Mayor, would you indulge me? Would it be the pleasure of the council to send the fire chief home to be with his family on his birthday if he's finished his duties for the evening?
I would second that.
Happy birthday, Chief.
Happy birthday, Chief. Yeah, you don't have to stick around. Although if you really love us, you know, it's an exciting meeting. Go ahead. But you're free. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Conley.
Good evening, Mayor Ritter, council members, staff, members of the public. It is my pleasure to present to you tonight an application for a general plan amendment, zone change, tentative subdivision map, and density bonus for a 15-lot subdivision at 1205 Melrose Way. The project site is approximately 2.55 acres across 3 legal parcels with 1 existing single-family residence. In 2007, the Planning Commission recommended City Council denial of a general plan amendment for a low-density residential, LD, to a high-density residential, HD. No decision was rendered due to a continuance of the project at the owner's request. In 2016, the City Council discussed a request for a general plan amendment to a high-density residential, HD, and zone change to RM21. Staff did not recommend support for the land use change, and the City Council confirmed with consensus, a vote 4-0, with Aguilera absent. In 2021, City Council discussed a request for a general plan amendment to medium-low density residential, MLD, and corresponding zone change to residential R1. At the end of the City Council discussion, staff was directed to accept the application for the proposed entitlement. As previously noted, the proposed project is for a general plan amendment, zone change, tentative subdivision map, and density bonus. Proposed project would provide for the development of 15 residential lots on 2.55 gross acres. 1 very low-income residential unit will be provided in exchange for a 20% density bonus. Minimum lot sizes will range between 3,500 to 5,700 square feet, and 60 parking spaces will be provided with a 2-car garage and 2-car driveway per lot. This is an aerial photo of the subject site and the current surrounding land uses, with low-density residential to the south and the west, and multifamily residential to the north. Existing general plan designation is low density, LD, which allows for 2 units per acre with minimum half-acre lots. Proposed general plan designation is for medium-low density residential MLD, which would allow for 5 dwelling units per acre and minimum 10,000 square foot lots. Existing zoning designation is E1 estate, which allows for single-family residences, animal keeping, and agricultural crops. And proposed zoning designation is R1 residential, which allows for single-family residences as well, animal keeping, and gardening. This is the proposed site plan with private streets A and B, a biobasin, a pocket park, and the proposed lots. Approximately 12,000 square feet of the site will be landscaped with native and non-native plant materials that require low to moderate water use. And the site will take direct access from Melrose Way. Private streets A and B will be 24 feet in paved width within a 35-foot easement area. The proposed project is forecast to generate 150 daily vehicle trips at full build-out. Because the project generates less than 500 daily trips, a vehicle miles traveled impact analysis was not required. Furthermore, the project also did not meet the CEQA threshold for a traffic study, since the project would generate less than 500 vehicle miles traveled. Concessions and waivers. What are concessions? Concessions can be a reduction in development standards, but are tied to identifiable and actual cost reductions. Applicants shall receive one concession for projects that include at least 5% of the total units for very low-income households. Requested density bonus is 20%. 6.6% of total units are provided as very low income. This equates to one very low-income residential unit. Per the state density bonus law, the applicant is allowed one concession related to a cost-saving measure, which will be minimum lot size reduction. What are waivers? Waivers are a reduction in development standards and are granted where the development standard would physically prevent the project from being built at the permitted density and with granted concession. The waiver or reduction of a development standard does not count as an incentive or concession, and there is no limit on the number of development standard waivers that may be requested or granted. Development standards for waivers being utilized for this project include side yard setback, rear yard setback, minimum lot width, minimum lot depth, private street width, retaining wall type, and a width of a storm drain easement. In regards to environmental review, an MND was prepared for the proposed project. The 20-day review period was from May 18 to June 6, 2022. 6 comment letters were received during the public review period. Comment letters and responses to comments are included in the agenda report. A public hearing was held at the Planning Commission on July 19, 2022 to consider the project. At the completion of the hearing, the Planning Commission voted to recommend denial of the project as outlined in the Planning Commission Resolution 2022-14. Some of the Planning Commission comments were related to lot sizes being inconsistent with the surrounding low-density development pattern, smaller lots being inconsistent with the general plan medium-low density land use designation, which allows 5 dwelling units per acre, and the project would not successfully integrate with the surrounding development. Staff does not have a formal recommendation related to the proposed project. Council has the option to approve the project MND, general plan amendment, tentative subdivision map, and zone change ordinance, or deny the project in its entirety. This concludes staff's presentation. Applicant is present tonight to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant also has a presentation prepared.
Okay, and I think we'll have the applicant presentation next. So Aaron Piotrowski.
Good evening, council members. Tonight, we are talking about 1205 Melrose Way, which is a rezone and general plan amendment proposing 15 lots with a density of 5.8 units to the acre and one deed-restricted, very low affordable unit. The property is an existing infill site. It's accommodating growth in a sustainable manner, respecting yet evolving existing development patterns. It intensifies density strategically. The property is completely encircled by development. It's about half a mile from Highway 78. It is 2.55 gross acres, and the proposed development suggests a project that is compatible density to the surrounding zoning and uses. What is key is that it proposes density near existing resources and existing infrastructure. The project also respects existing development patterns. These are the current active uses around the property. Eastward, we have an active institutional church use, an elementary school, a park. And to the north, we have an 88-unit apartment project that's 30 units to the acre, commercial uses, a 240-unit multifamily project that's 15 units to the acre, a 221-unit apartment project that's 32 units to the acre, and to the west is low-density residential, 2 units to the acre, and medium low-density residential, 5 units to the acre. The proposed 15-lot project equates to a density of about 5.8 units to the acre, so it's clearly not out of place with the surrounding uses. The project plans for attainable workforce housing. One of the key indicators for that success is walkability. The property allows for easy walkable access to several parks, as well as a few walkable grocery stores and pharmacy options. With regards to transportation, the Civic Center Sprinter line is only 1.2 miles away, which is easily bikeable, and a bus route is only 0.2 miles away. The property has all the hallmarks of an appropriate site to intensify density to help meet the region's housing needs. Intensify and density are words that can make communities nervous. Communities have strong nostalgia to keep things as they are. But balance must be found between the needs of the neighborhood and the needs of the overall community. We need to identify the most suitable locations to help intelligently absorb that need with the appropriate density that evolves to meet the eminent need for housing, but also balances what is compatible with the existing established community. The tides are turning away from the McMansion era of the 80s and 90s. A trend is of more manageably scaled homes, more eco-friendly, smaller, with open concept, and a focus on efficiency and living intentionally with a smaller footprint. There's a consistent call for more affordable housing from the public agencies and the public alike. The impediments to building smaller is inflexibility of existing zoning and the nostalgia for large lot living, which creates local opposition to a reduction in lot sizes. Locally, the city tries to pre-identify through RHNA site selection, but those pre-selected sites are not always viable in the market. This site strategically makes sense as an infill location, with compatible density at 5.8 units to the acre, balancing the needs of the overall community with the desires of the neighborhood for single-family homes at a density that counts towards the RHNA numbers, both the market rate smaller homes and in addition to the deed-restricted very low affordable unit. Additionally, it is not an intangible pre-selected site. It's a viable project that will quantifiably apply to meeting the RHNA numbers. But it requires dynamic decision-making from local city power to react to the opportunity to make it a reality. Over the years, we've seen the state impose regulations that override local control, and we've consistently seen those policies geared towards further intensification and density. In 5 to 10 years, we can easily project that the state will further push the envelope and likely foster intensities more dense than today. Before 2021, density bonus only allowed for a 35% bonus. Today, that bonus is now 50%. That trend will not likely go downward. The project is not proposing blocks of high-rise housing. The project isn't even multifamily. What this project proposes is a much more palatable transition for the neighborhood through the use of small lot, single-family homes in place of what would otherwise be sprawling estate lots. There are a lot of benefits to the community and the city with regards to smaller lots. Smaller lots promote end-user affordability. There's a lower, more attainable purchase price. There's long-term lower maintenance costs for the homeowners. There are environmental benefits, smaller spaces requiring less energy to heat and less water needs for smaller yards. More smaller lots creates more property tax income for the city. This is the time for dynamic decision-making, responding to community needs with a tangible project that offers a balanced response to supplying new housing in a way that both respects the desires of the neighborhood with single-family homes with the needs of the greater community. We are proposing an evolution to the zone from estate residential to R1, from 2 units to the acre to 5.8 units to the acre, buffering and creating a natural transition between the multifamily townhomes adjacent to the site that are upwards of 15 to 30 units to the acre. Additionally, we are deed restricting one of the new homes to very low affordable for a term of 55 years. Had this project been proposed with the new small lot R1B zoning, and after backing out the private drive, the likelihood is that we could have probably plotted around 22 homes or 22 lots. None of those homes would be required to be deed restricted affordable. Instead, we chose the route of rezoning to R1 and utilizing density bonus to create 14 market rate lots plus one very low affordable home. Again, trying to balance the desires of the neighborhood with the overall needs of the community. This very low affordable unit must be sold to a qualified buyer and will sell for approximately $203,000. If rented to a qualified tenant, it could not exceed $1,626 a month. And that deed restriction is in place for 55 years. The proposed site plan has been laid out with the intent to be as least impactful to as few people as possible. The project abuts only 4 E1 properties. Only one of those 4 have a structure that is adjacent to the shared property line. And in addition, there are natural physical buffers that pre-exist on site. I've highlighted the underutilized portion of the neighboring lots. The areas not actively used that serve to help as an existing buffer between their structure and the property line. In addition to this buffer, the new private drive and the project's rear yards further extend the setbacks from the E1 neighbors. Even the one neighbor whose structure is closest to the shared property line is actually going to gain an improved setback from the existing house that's on site now. The next concern we typically confront on any and all development projects is the influence of additional vehicles in the community. The project is well positioned to be minimally impactful. It's only half a mile away from Highway 78. The impact on collector and neighborhood roads is minimal. The main nearest intersection is Melrose Way and Melrose Drive, and per the City of Vista's Traffic Congestion Management Plan, the level of service at that intersection is rated an A, and that is the best rating it can receive, which is clearly positioning it well to manage the 15 new homes. In addition to that, the existing infrastructure in the project proposes an on-site cul-de-sac with only emergency access for only emergency vehicles onto McGravin Drive. This serves not only to keep McGravin Drive from being impacted by any additional trip generation, but even more importantly, it improves the safety for those existing residents by creating more direct route for fire service, improving response times to those homes. The project also improves the frontage on Melrose Way, extending the sidewalk, which is useful for drop-up and pick-up for Breeze Hill Elementary, helping to expand safe walking path for the children. With regards to parking, every home will have a 2-car garage and 2 parking spaces, and the CC&Rs will restrict that parking be required in the garages. The project creates more light and eyes on the street in a place of a dark, empty lot, enhancing overall neighborhood safety. This project offers a palatable density, evolving underutilized estate lots, creating a buffer of 5.8 units to the acre from higher density multifamily that is adjacent to it. It is a strategic infill location with infrastructure to support it. It balances between the desires of the neighborhood and the needs of the community. It provides deed-restricted affordable home and 14 smaller market-rate homes that are much more attainable than estate lot homes would be. It is a tangible, real project, and when viewed analytically and not through the eyes of nostalgia, it does exactly what the city looks for projects to do, and it truly helps meet the needs of the community. Lincoln once said, "You can please some of the people all of the time, you can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time." And when it comes down to it, a good compromise is when both parties are slightly dissatisfied. As you can see, this project has been before you before and a lot more dense. This project is not requesting 12 to 15 units to the acre, it's only 5.8. Change is uncomfortable, and it's unrealistic to have all the existing local estate lot owners jump on board happily with a reduction in this lot size. But the project is also not the worst case scenario. This is a good, thoughtful, compatible compromise, and we hope that you can support this vision for the future of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We have several speakers. I'll have the speakers come up and when I call one name, and then if the other, I'll call 2 names. The other one will come over and stand by the side here. So the first one is Lauren, I think it's Edieni, followed by Betty Randolph.
Good evening. I've never used one of those before, though. My name's Lauren Etienne. I live at the corner of Melrose Way and Marsopa, approximately a half mile from Melrose and Melrose Way. Yesterday and this morning, I did a traffic count on the traffic passing my house and going up Melrose Way to Melrose to the school. There were 304 cars from 7:30 to 8:30 this morning. Same time yesterday the number was the same, 304, but the time frame was a little different. This afternoon, the school gets out at 2:21. From 1:30 to 2:30, there was 178 cars traveling down or traveling up Melrose Way. When you're talking about, and that Melrose Way at that area is approximately 25 feet wide with white lines down both sides. Up where the school's at, it's a little wider, where they're bringing in their road, private road on the side. I think Melrose Way is about 35 feet wide. Most of Melrose Way does not have sidewalks and does not have curbing and does not have a way for people that live in my area to get safely up to the school. There's two outlets for the people that go down Melrose Way. One of them is Marsopa, which is half mile from the school. The second one is Shadow Ridge, not Shadow Ridge, Sunset. It is a mile from Melrose. There's only two outlets that allow traffic on Melrose Way to get back to either Melrose, the freeway, that's a locked-in area. So the amount of traffic that's going to be on that road every morning and every afternoon is way above anything that really needs to be going through there. I don't have an objection to the project. I have an objection to the size of the project. Staying with a 1/2 acre house per half acre is very acceptable. Maybe one house per third acre. But 15 houses on 2.5 acres degrades the whole area. Now, I've lived in that house that I have right now since 1990. I moved in there. It's a beautiful area. I moved to Vista because I like the area. It's open, and I would not like to see it degraded down with jamming that many houses in that small of an area.
Thank you.
If anybody has a question,
Thank you, sir.
all right.
Is Betty not here, Betty Randolph? Okay. And then followed by Linnea Humble. Could you come over the side here and wait?
Is this what you do? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the chance to be here and talk. My husband and I live on McGavran Drive. McGavran Drive is a private road, as is the extension, which has a road sign that says McGavran Terrace. There is no such road. The mailboxes, and I believe the council received letters and pictures that show McGavran Terrace. It is a blacktop that the ownerships have to take care of its own repair. The mailboxes sit on the corner of Melrose at McGavran Terrace because the mailman cannot go down. There was a emergency down McGavran Terrace, and the fire department cannot get a truck down McGavran Terrace. We bought our home there as an E1. We wanted space. Recently, we've had young couples move in that are looking for places where they have room to have gardens and animals, and we have chicken in the areas, and putting that many homes in just takes away from the habitat that's there for some of what we have here in Vista. We have possums, we have skunks, we have coyotes. It's what makes Vista Vista. And this proposed site is asking to put in not 2-story houses, but 3-story. They're talking about putting a garage down and building on top of the garages. We oppose that. We have an auxiliary unit, if you will, on our property. Several other people around us do. We're not opposed to building. We are opposed to 3 jumps of zoning and the general plan being changed. We like our area. We have people that would love to be able to buy in our area who can't because Mr. Jordanvich has purchased and now has 2 other rental properties that back up to the parcel. I don't know what we can say. We have several members here. We watch the traffic. Nobody in the area goes the traffic limit. There's a 35-mile sign, and on the ground, 35 miles, there is a
Rep, your time is up.
Is my time up?
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
There's so much.
I know. I'm
Thank you.
sorry. Linnea Humble, followed by Chris, is it Marner?
I guess, go ahead. Good evening. Thank you for hearing me. I'm here today regarding the project known as P210130 at 1205 Melrose Way in Vista. I wish to express my adamant opposition to this project. It would be like putting 15 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. It just doesn't fit. One of the reasons I bought my home here only 4 years ago was because of the zoning, because of the spacing, because of the integrity and the character of the neighborhood. Now the proposed project is requesting the general plan amendment, mitigated navigation, blah, 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 zone change, yada, 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 you know. They're requesting jumping from zoning E1 and then boom, boom, boom. That's a lot of jumping. That's a lot. It's just not a good plan for this area, for this neighborhood, for this community. The proposed project is to continue. It will change the character and the integrity of the neighborhood that is there. These neighbors, these people that we've built our lives here. This project is not in the best interest of the neighborhood, residents of the community that will be impacted the most. We're the ones that are going to have to live with it, not the owner who does not live in the area. I see many negative issues and misrepresentations regarding the project. The first would be the traffic, and that's been brought up a lot. There are times it can take me anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes to get from Melrose Drive to Melrose Way, past the school, and to my home. It's just a nightmare at certain times of day. I have complained to the school, to the city traffic department, to the sheriff and the CHP, and it's still an issue. The element, cars block the intersection, they don't move, they impede the traffic, and you can't move. It's just, you're just stuck. Now, there are alternate ways to go through different communities, such as Marsopa, Sunset. That's just additional gas, time, mileage. You also have to remember what time of day it is. Sometimes you forget, and you end up 40 minutes late. Emergency vehicles can't get through to Centennial Drive, to this proposed development because of that traffic at Breeze Hill. It's pretty bad. It's claimed that a secondary access point would be through McGavran Terrace, but again, I beg to differ. McGavran Terrace is a private road, it's a cul-de-sac, it's a dead end. It is meant only for residents. This imagined secondary access would impact and change the residents who live and maintain this private road. The developer's conceptual map is mislabeled and misleading. They're telling you it's
Your time
McGavran
is
Drive.
up. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for hearing me. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Chris? Is it? And that's followed by Amanda. It looks, Olivis? I can't read the writing exactly.
Oh, I'm Chris Minier. So Mr. Desjardins, he bought this property 15, 16 years ago, knowing that this is an E1. He knows this. He's been trying to push this ever since he bought this property. When they tell you that it's not going to affect people or it's minimally going to affect people, well, I am that person right next to that project. I am looking at 7 backyards backed up against my property line. And in the back where she shows on that slide where it's not space, I use all of my yard. I'm sorry, I'm just so upset. I have to fight this all the time. Not only that, you put 15 houses there. Now, all of a sudden, you can put an ADU there. So now instead of 7 houses backed up against my backyard, I could have 14 if they all put ADUs out there. And then the extra traffic there. So you're going from 15 houses in that 2.5-acre small spot. If they all decide to put up ADUs, now you have 30 of them. Now you have 30 families on 2.5 acres. And the traffic that that's going to bring, I don't know if you've ever been down Melrose Way when school is out, when school is going in. I can't tell you how many times I've been almost nailed by cars flying down there trying to get out of my driveway. We bought here because of the zoning. These are E1s. And now they want to go and put all those in. I've been in my house 22 years. 22 years. I have no problem. If I want to put an ADU back there, I may do that. But that's 2 houses. They can get away with putting 30 units in that 2.5 acres. That is not what our neighborhood needs. That changes our neighborhood. That changes the whole area of our neighborhood. We have people who ride their horses down there. Kids, well, they don't walk down there because it's too dangerous. The streets are just horrible. Like I said, if you need, I'm sorry, I'm just so upset right now. This affects me the most. It affects the whole neighborhood, but this is my way of life. This is my life for 22 years. I have lived in this city since 1977, lived in that house 22 years. That is unfair to put that and invade my privacy and change my dynamic and my way of life for the last 22 years. He can put 5 houses in that area. They could all put up ADUs. You can have 10 houses on that 2.5 acre. That does not need to be rezoned. We are E1s. He knew it. We need to keep it that way.
Your time's up. I'm sorry. Amanda, followed by Amanda Martin.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'll apologize ahead of time. Speaking in front of an audience is terrifying to me, so I'll be brief. I speak today in favor of this project. I'm in support of this project because as a local resident and homeowner, initially it had been my dream to own a large new single-family home with a yard where my 2 young children could play. However, when it came time to purchase 2 years ago, that became a financial infeasibility because of the rising cost of housing and the shortage, which in turn increases the prices as well. This project is exciting to me because as we see more homes being built to accommodate the rising population, it becomes more of a possibility for median income families such as myself to afford a home. I strongly support this project personally as it gives families such as myself the opportunity to finally own a single-family home with a yard in a safe, gated community where there's a park for the kids to play and the incredible rare perk of being able to walk to school, in addition to the added additions and street improvements this project would require, which would increase safety along Melrose Way for the children walking to and from school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Amanda Martin, followed by Ben Williams. Oh, it's Maria. I'm sorry, I can't read the writing, sorry. Sorry, Maria.
That's okay, no worries. Good evening, council members and mayor. Maria Martin. I just want to speak in behalf of this project. The state of California is encouraging a higher density. There's a reason for that. We have a lack of homes throughout San Diego and throughout the state, everywhere. The cost of homes right now are excessive, and with more homes will help with the cost becoming more affordable. I do believe that this project is very aesthetically pleasing, and the developer and owner, I don't feel personally he's going to cut any corners. He's very professional in the way that he does things personally, and I do think this is going to be a top-notch housing development in the community. Additionally, with it being near the schools, I think that that is wonderful for families to be close and walking distance to schools, as well as the church and other amenities nearby. Also, with the shift in the homes housing market, new construction developers are already pulling back from their housing starts. So here we have a private community member that's willing to put his money forward to develop his land to the best and highest use, which he has a right to do. Also, with rents being extremely high, I feel that additional housing will help curb some of that as well. So I speak in behalf of that, and thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ben Williams.
Hello, council members. My name is Ben Williams, and my family, we own 2 properties in Vista. One of them is about 1.5 acres. It's over on Buena Vista Drive, and another one is about 3.5 acres in Vista. So I'm pro for this project. I would love to see something like that happen with our property. I feel that every property owner should have their rights to do what's reasonable with a property. In looking at this particular project, it's allowed to have up to 5 lots with its existing zoning, and each one of those homes could then have an accessory dwelling unit, which then adds up to be 10. And they could potentially even have a junior ADU, which would be 15 right there under its existing zoning. If any one of those owners then, under the existing zoning, then implemented SB 9 and split all those lots, then under the existing zoning, under California law, then it potentially could be double that. So if we were at 5 ADUs turn into 10, junior ADUs turn into 15, it could be 30 homes. So that's the existing density maximum potential of this property. The only difference between doing smaller homes without ADUs is that they can be sold individually, which are more affordable. And that's what makes it more affordable. When you have an ADU and a single-family residence, they can't be sold individually. And it makes it more difficult for families to buy those. Multiple generations have to get into them. Down the street from our property on Buena Vista Drive, there's a development there that was built by, I want to say, Meritage Homes. And what they did is they did a zoning called detached condominium. And that type of zoning, because it's a condo type zoning, it's a special zone, so it's not allowed to implement SB 9 and ADUs, and that's because you can't put an ADU on a condo. So they're detached condos. So there are ways to, hear neighborhood concerns and maybe put an open space buffer across those backyards to where an ADU couldn't be built. But just looking at that picture, it looks like it was very well thought out, very considerate. The homes are very far away from the one neighbor that's right there that's most impacted. If you look at the number of homes that are right next to her house, it's maybe 2 or 3. The other ones are spread pretty far away. And those homes are so far away compared to the existing setbacks that are allowed. A giant house could be there. And just because there's more homes doesn't necessarily mean more people. Larger homes, we're seeing more people, more families pack in, and you have more possibilities for domestic violence being packed into a home. And I was just here earlier, heard the earlier conversations, you actually get an extra street light or 2.
Your time is up, sorry.
Thank you.
But thank you. We appreciate your coming and speaking. That's the end of our speakers. Councilmember Contreras.
I want to thank the public for coming and speaking and providing comments, questions, and concerns regarding this project. There's developers that come before us that talk about infill projects. I actually think that this qualifies as an infill project. I do have some questions regarding the price point for the homes that are not deed restricted. What is the price point?
If everything was approved, these would probably come to market in 2 years. So depending on where interest rates go, if you were to take a snapshot in this moment in time, those would be probably in the high 7s, low 8s, but interest rates are rising. So it's unlikely that it will continue on an upward trajectory. I imagine they'll stabilize or be in the mid 7s.
Okay. Not super affordable, obviously.
In terms of the county of San Diego?
Right. There's not a lot of, when we're looking at purchasing a home, the affordability aspect of it is critical. But I'm not 100% against this project. So I do want to ask my coworkers on staff some questions that were brought up by the public. One is the secondary access for emergency services. Can you describe a little bit more about that secondary access and how it would be upgraded, who would be allowed to utilize it, any concerns that we have about that?
The secondary access off of McGavran Terrace will only be utilized for emergency access only.
Oh, can you speak right in there so we can hear you?
Is this better? The secondary access on McGavran Terrace will only be utilized for emergency access only. There is no public in and out proposed at this time for the residences of that community.
Okay.
Not at the moment, no.
There's no condition to improve McGavran, so it would remain in its current condition unless the council wanted to add a condition to improve it. However, it is a private street, which is owned by the residents that front that street, so we would need to obtain the permission of those residents if the project were to move forward in order to improve the road. But it would be gated and used for emergency access only, so there would be no normal access in and out of McGavran from the project.
Okay. Well, I'm hearing from the public that our fire engines can't even transverse that area. So what's the point of having a secondary access point if we have issues moving a vehicle through there?
So we can bring the chief up if you want to find out about how emergency vehicles would access the property, but my understanding is the purpose for the secondary access is more for the residents of the neighborhood in an evacuation situation. If they were not able to get out the primary roadway, there would be an alternate roadway for them to use.
I'm concerned about the status of that private. I have a lot of private roads in District 1, as you all know, and it's a huge issue to try and keep those roads maintained because it ends up falling, on the shoulders of the property owners, and it becomes a huge expense. So, I don't want to consider a secondary access point that is really unsafe in the case of evacuation. So I am actually really concerned about that. But I also understand that if we put a condition that would mitigate any concerns of whether that access point in the private street would even be able to carry the traffic under an emergency situation that it would need to, then the city would be then responsible for maintaining this road? Would it become then a city road, or what are the type of conditions that we can put on it?
The council could condition the developer to make improvements to McGavran Terrace to meet our private road standards. It does not meet our private road standards currently, and it's in fairly poor condition, as you can see from some of the photos that were submitted by the owners. It is a private street, so as you mentioned, it's the owner's responsibility to maintain it. But like I said, we could condition the developer to make improvements to it if that was the desire of the council if we could obtain the permission from the fronting property owners.
If that permission were not granted,
Then we would not have the ability to require the developer to make improvements to it.
okay, so then the condition would be null and void, even if that was a condition that we put on the project.
That unfortunately sometimes happens because of private property rights.
Right. Okay. What about the question regarding ADUs and the ability for these homes to have an ADU and a junior ADU? I know that there's conditions that we have that wouldn't allow for certain attached construction to occur, but for this specific plan that's before us, what would the likelihood be of ADUs? Are they permissible?
Yes. State law requires the city to allow an ADU or a junior ADU on any single-family residentially zoned property.
And they would have, the lots would be big enough where they could fit within.
So setbacks are 4 feet on the side and rear. These have yards. They potentially could fit small detached ADUs in some of the yards. The garages could potentially be converted under state law. So there are some options for someone to build an ADU or possibly an ADU and a junior ADU on these lots, depending on the space provided on each lot.
Okay. So, I hear the concerns from the community. I will say that we need to spread our density out throughout the city. A lot of it ends up going into District 1, which is the district that I represent, which is why our district is so tiny, because we have high density. When we talk about changing the character of a neighborhood, I'm not super fond of those types of conversations because I feel like they can be classist discussions. However, when we're looking at the serious possibility of evacuating, we have a 365-day, 24/7 fire season now here in Vista in California and throughout the world. We have seen that the climate crisis continues to get worse. So I actually do not have a problem with this project, with the density, with the proposed size of the homes. What I do have a problem with is in the case of emergency, how are people going to get out of here? And to state that they could simply use this private road that is not even to our standards at this point in time, I feel like that's not a responsible thing to do. However, I am conflicted because if I say I want to put a condition on it where that has to occur, and then there's no responsiveness from the property owners to permit such a thing to happen, then at that point, this project could still move forward. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's where I'm having a real hard time, because I don't believe that the density really is a problem. I'm hearing, I hear you from the audience, and I actually disagree with you. I really do not believe the density is an issue. I think the issue is the configuration of this lot with a proposed emergency access point that really isn't suitable for emergency. So that puts me more towards being against the project, even though I think outside of those concerns, I'm in favor of the project. But I really do believe that we have a responsibility to ensure that something that we call an emergency access point will be able to function as such. And I'm not convinced at this point. So I look forward to hear from the rest of my colleagues. This is a very difficult decision for me, but I have a serious concern.
Councilmember Green.
Boom, there I am. My microphone works too. All right. Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for all this stuff. I wanted to have some questions for the developer because I definitely heard from the residents, took a lot of notes on this. They spoke about not having sidewalks in the area. You speak about improving sidewalks. How much sidewalk improvement are you actually doing in this neck of the woods?
I think I actually have it in one of my slides. The entire frontage of the property will have sidewalk improvements.
Okay.
Is it 178 feet? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 170.
Is it connecting to any sidewalks that go in front of the school over there? Like, does it go in front of the 11th?
Connects eastward, but obviously the sidewalk stops westward. So it
Yeah,
connects.
so it connects eastward towards Breeze Hill Elementary School, all the way down. So now we have more sidewalks over there. From a lighting standpoint, it said you were putting additional lighting over there. Is there going to be any light pollution issues from this development going into any of the residents? I know that when you guys look at how the lighting kind of comes off, I mean, from street lights in this, are they going to affect these?
So the private drive is adjacent to the church property, not adjacent to the E1. So, and I think there are, and just maybe you can speak to this, the types of lights we use that have to have the angled down lighting and the yellow lighting. So we'll follow all those
So you're making sure from a light
Absolutely.
pollution. Okay, the other thing is, I went to Rancho Buena Vista High School, graduated in the mid-'90s, lived in Vista my whole life, and I do know that you can take Sunset Drive, hang a left on Melrose Way, and boom, hit Melrose Drive. Hang a left out of there and get down. It is a cut-through, per se, between, Oceanside and Vista, basically. So one of the big problems they have there is speed. And, is there any type of speed mitigation that we've conditioned the developer or that we've thought about doing on Melrose Way? I know off of Foothill Drive, kind of in the hills there, they put Rancho Minerva Middle School in the middle of there. And Councilwoman Contreras has worked real hard to get buses over there. I'm working on getting some traffic control over in that neck of the woods because with the increased density, we do have issues with speeding and traffic safety. So from a speed mitigation standpoint, what have you, I know we're not doing a traffic study, but.
We'd be very open to it. We have talked about speed bumps.
No speed bumps.
Or curb pop-outs, if that's something that would be more preferable to kind of slow the speed. We'd be very
Okay,
comfortable
so
with the
for me,
condition.
I definitely think, and don't get me wrong, I know your 15 people aren't going to make the speed increase on there, but anytime we make, conditions like this, we want concessions. And from a speed mitigation standpoint, I definitely think that we need to do something. School time traffic over there is horrible. No joke, no lie about it. Summertime is my favorite time of the year, and not because my 4 kids are home, but because I can drive through Vista, semi-easily without dealing with school time traffic. I don't know that anything you put over there is going to do anything about school time traffic, but I do think adding the sidewalks and I'm assuming curb and gutter and all that stuff in that neck of the woods is at least going to help with the infrastructure in that area a little bit, and it's going to be a lot more improvements to the area than any other, even an E1, build is going to be there. I do agree with Councilwoman Contreras, though, on this fire access issue. Now, I looked at the map there. It looks like we have 6 properties that probably have a shared road maintenance agreement, I'm assuming, on their title report. Is it just 720 through 740, those 6 houses on McGavern Terrace? Or do we not know who has the private road maintenance agreement? Because I would assume that McGavern Drive right here is a city-maintained road, right?
The exhibit that's on the screen right now shows the ownership of McGavern Terrace, and there are approximately 7 parcels that share our ownership.
Okay, so here, let me get this. Sorry, there was another one up that actually had all their addresses that are surrounding there, because I don't know what all their parcel numbers are. I guess, what my question is there is, on a private road maintenance agreement, it's a shared cost on a private road. And if it's a dirt road and it's horrible right now and you can't get a fire truck right down there, if your house catches on fire, that's horrible, okay? And that's gonna be real expensive to fix, all right? The fact that we can condition this developer to pay to fix that road to make it where it meets our private road standards, where an actual fire truck can get up and down it, in the event we had a fire at 749 and 736 right there at McGavern Drive and McGavern Terrace, these 5 homes in the back can't get out. there's nowhere for you to go. This new development actually provides you a secondary fire escape. So parcel number 18 and 19 and 28 and 20 right there, when this fire, in the event it happens, you have no way out right now without this secondary access. And when your neighborhood was built, there was no requirement for a secondary fire access. So this right here actually helps with your fire escape route because you do have a bottleneck at the end of that terrace. And we also would be able to put a condition that now this developer takes care of this road maintenance. Now, whether we have one person that says they don't want to do it or, I mean, you have 7 property owners there. So basically we need to get 4 out of the 7. Is that the majority? 4 out of the 7 have to say, hey, we don't want to pay to maintain this road anymore. We want to live on it. We think an additional fire exit's a good thing. And the fact that we don't have to pay for this road every year when it gets beat up by the trash truck or whatever is a feasible, tangible benefit for us. Is that something that we do? I mean, do we put it to a vote of the 7 residents? Because I know a couple, obviously you can't make them all happy, but I've sold several houses over the past 35 years in the city with private road maintenance agreements. And you get some property owners on these private road maintenance agreements that don't want to do their part. 7 people up there and only 2 of them want to pitch in money for this big road. So any way you can take the burden off of a homeowner to have to maintain a road that is shared, that is used for public benefit, in my opinion, most homeowners are going to be pretty okay with that. That is my big complaint with this, is that a secondary road access, I would think that as a city, it'd be very irresponsible of us to say this is a secondary fire access and my boy Saldana and his homies can't get down that road in a fire truck. Like, before we say this is an access, we need to make dang sure that whether they agree for us to take it over and fix it on our own or not, that our guys know they can drive a fire truck down it. So we will definitely, I mean, even if it doesn't meet our standards, it's got to be a sufficient escape route. Correct, Mr. Conley?
Yeah, I agree. However, you'd have to have all the property owners agree that have rights over the road. It wouldn't just be
7 of 7, 1,000%.
Can I ask a question on that?
You can ask, go ahead.
So I'm not sure of the width of that private drive as it currently stands, but assuming it's something like 16 feet, would it be correct to assume that if you condition that, you'd be looking for a full width of 24 feet of improvement? So not only would we need to fix what's there, we would need to get those property owners to give us a portion of their property to improve beyond what already exists.
Well, there could be an easement for right-of-way access in front of that, or since it's a private, there's no right-of-way access, right? Because you're right, never mind.
We would only be able to condition the improvement of what's within the existing easement. So it would depend on the width of the easement out there. But
That's fine.
We could condition.
But say my easement's
within the
16
width.
foot wide and that's sufficient for a fire truck to go up and down, I can repave that, whether the current owners want or not. I just won't pave onto their property if they don't want to.
Yeah, and again, I don't think the intent here was to allow for.
No, I know it's not
fire
daily
truck
access at all. And that's the thing. That's what I want to get at too, is this is only going to be used in the event of a fire, all right? Lord willing, there hasn't been a fire in that little area since it's been built. So I would hope one wouldn't, spark up, per se. However, our main thing here is public safety. That's why I'm an elected official. And I would not forgive myself if I didn't have a secondary fire access per my code for this new infill project, which I agree, it's a great infill project, but you have to be able to have a safe infill project. So, what it sounds like, Mr. Conley, is that we should, as a city, we should have had some type of easement that's wide enough for me to get a fire truck and some cars down in the event this entire community is on fire.
There are a number of roads in Vista that were approved and built before the city was incorporated that do not meet our current standards.
I get it, for private roads.
This is one of them.
Do you know how wide the easement is right now that the city has?
I do not, but we could absolutely include a requirement that they improve the width of the easement to the city's private street standards, and that could be imposed if the property owners are willing.
And in the event the property owners, like that's the other thing, is I would want a stipulation that in the event the property owners don't approve the free improvement to their private road that nobody else is ever going to use, in the event they don't want to do that, we can still pave the middle so that, say there is a fire, they can at least, the part we own, like the part that we have right to access to, right?
We do not own any of it.
Oh, so if it's a dirt road, we go down the dirt road, period.
Correct, and really, as I was saying, the intent here was not to put a fire truck down this road.
Ever, yes.
The intent was
But
to
that's
allow
what-
vehicular access either way in the event that there was a blockage on one of these streets to allow residents to go either way to get out.
How do we save these residents who are back there if their houses catch on fire? If our fire truck won't fit down the road, it's up to them.
Well, I can't, I mean, I can certainly call the chief up to see
No,
how
it's
they
cool.
would
He's not
serve
here right
these
now.
areas, but that's, I mean,
It's his birthday, so we let him go home.
the intent here again was to provide emergency access
For the cars, so for the escape route. And that's what we're going to provide to them as well, right? They can all take all their cars and their RVs and their horses and their goats right through our community in the event there's a fire back there as well, right?
Yes.
And our property owners have no right to deny them access to our fire escape, right? Because basically what they're saying is, hey, we're going to deny you the right to this fire escape because we don't like your community being built in our neighborhood.
In the event of an emergency, we pretty much use any access that we can, private or public.
Okay. Okay, that was a
Can
big
I add to that?
Please, go ahead.
The new private road that we are creating has a turnaround, a cul-de-sac bulb that is designed for a fire truck. That is.
You have the hammerhead at
majority
the
of-
end, right?
No, we have a cul-de-sac, actually. a full
even
cul-de-sac.
better.
And then as it gets to the end, and it turns off to that secondary private road, there's only 2 properties off of it. That also you'll be able to, 3 properties? 4 properties off
right
it.
here, okay.
4 properties off it. So when you can get a fire truck all the way into to that private drive, and then beyond that, you have a hose pull.
Okay.
So we are creating an improved situation just with this project, getting the fire truck all the way down to McGravin with an additional hose pull.
Because
from there.
before, the fire truck wouldn't even be able to
Wasn't
get
even
to the end of
getting there.
McGravin in the event there was
Correct.
any type of issues.
Correct.
Okay. And your so a fire truck's never going to have to go down that road. A fire truck can always turn around and go out the other way.
Yeah, it's coming down this road.
Okay, so there's private cars. That makes a big difference from a public safety standpoint. Let's see. So we aren't denying here. Oh, ADUs. We talked about them. Somebody said something about adding a buffer. I know the state of California has a lot of laws as far as what we can and can't do to deny density in a project. I also know that we have laws here in the city of Vista, or codes, whatever you want to call them, that have to do with setbacks and things. Are we allowed, as kind of suggested by maybe it was the property owner or the developer, to put an actual buffer on the back edge of their property that would prevent them from going towards that community? I know I can't stop them from converting their lower garage of their 3-story property to an ADU, but is there anything I could do to just make sure that there really is that buffer that she showed?
State law requires us to provide a 4-foot setback in the rear and side for an ADU. We cannot impose a greater setback than 4 feet.
What if we're changing our general plan to accommodate higher density for a developer? We can't put any special overlays as a
Doesn't
city
matter.
on it?
State law says any single-family zone property, you must allow an ADU, you must allow 4-foot side and rear yard setbacks.
So I just have to trust that this guy's not going to turn this into a 45-unit. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean, every property zoned R1 in the state of California per SB 9 can put an ADU and a junior ADU on their property. Am I correct?
Under ADU law, you can do that. SB 9 is a whole different thing that I can get into. if you
Please
have
do not, because we don't want to
questions.
split the parcels or anything like that. But and you can talk about that later too. But in all reality, what I'm getting at is each one of these properties can just come to the front counter and say, "Hey, I want to add a detached ADU and I want to convert this garage into an ADU." Per the state, we don't have to put additional parking or anything, right?
That's correct, if it's within a certain distance of a bus stop or a transit
Okay.
location, half
would
mile.
would this? I'm gonna get you 1 second. Would this development, if it had ADUs and junior ADUs, in your opinion, as the chief planning person in the city of Vista, have adequate infrastructure to provide safety for those residents in that area? Safety. I'm not talking about livability or comfort or, will they all be safe there? Is that putting 15 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack that can't all get out?
Are you asking my opinion? Because I can tell you, we wouldn't have any discretion here. If they sold these homes and the owners wanted to build ADUs and junior ADUs, the city could not say no. We would have to follow state law.
Could there be a CCNRs, conditions, covenants, and restrictions put in by a homeowners association
So
that
that-
could be followed, that as a municipality, we can say, hey, we want you to have a governing board of these 15 homes to have CCNRs, and in those CCNRs, we want you to say that there's got to be an architectural committee who has to approve any alterations to the exterior of the home.
So the state law says that you cannot prohibit an ADU through a covenant, condition, and restriction, but you can regulate it. In other words, you have to allow it, but you can't have rules that limit where it goes or how it looks or where it's placed.
So the developer could put their own buffer on their own development with their own CCNRs if they wanted?
As long as they allowed it in some form on each lot.
Okay.
That's creative.
That's very good information. Let's
For
see.
the city attorney here to confirm.
Well,
Yes, city attorney, go ahead.
I just want to add that, in deciding this, this item, you should be considering the application in front of you. The addition of ADUs, junior ADUs.
Speculation?
Is speculation based on future owners, not the applicant. The applicant would not be the one splitting or adding anything. So it's not really relevant information to this hearing.
Okay, I get that.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
What I learned from staff also is that in the R1 zone that we would be rezoning to, you cannot go beyond 60% of your lot coverage with the ADU. So that includes your existing structure that you're putting on there. So in no occasion can you go beyond that 60% lot coverage. Is that correct? So there is that benefit as well. If there is I understand with HOAs you cannot prohibit from doing ADUs, but if there is a way to do a backyard buffer, we would be open to that. We are not proposing any ADUs.
Of course,
also,
yeah.
we are proposing 2-story structures, not 3-story structures.
Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. All right, let's see. So we cannot condition that. Sorry, I just don't want to have to push my button again for you. I took 3 pages of notes. Evacuation routes, 8 home shared, garage conversions, fire access, speed mitigation, school time. Nope, I think we're great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you so much. Thank you to my colleagues for asking really good questions about fire access, potential further development of the lots. I hear all the comments from my neighbors as well, and all the, efforts of the applicant to make this an attractive and approachable project. However, there are certain arguments that I would disagree with, right? Having my own opinions. I really, similar to Councilmember Contreras, I don't believe that density is always a bad thing. I think that density is part of what it means for us to grow safely. This endless sprawl that we see throughout our community, the eating up of our agricultural lands to prioritize, continued single-family zoning, which this is single-family zoning. I'm critical of those things. So I think that density, when applied appropriately in a community, can have benefits to the community. I also don't agree with the arguments that we must change this zoning in order to accomplish our housing goals. Currently, because of all the efforts from our city staff, we do not need to change our zoning in order to meet our housing goals at this time. And I kind of reject any of these ideas that we should be fearful of the state coming down and doing something, right, to force our hand in some way. This is really more about answering the questions of, is this consistent with our general plan? And is this density suitable for the site? So seeing that this was rejected by our planning commission, that decision-making body had a particular approach, right? They decided that it wasn't consistent with the general plan and that the density would not be suitable for the site. And I tried to understand why that decision was made so that I could be as informed as I could coming into this decision. One of the things I was curious about was making sure that this decision was based on a conversation about consistency with our general plan and seeing that we have estates right on most sides, E1 zoning on most sides, but we do have multifamily residential to the north. So partially, in some way, more density than E1 would be consistent because it's already there, right? We already have apartments in the vicinity. So, you know, the rejection of density and that sort of thing, I can't even call this density because it's single family zoning still, right? It would be more dense than E1, but we see to the north there is multifamily residential zoning. So I'm conflicted because the majority of the zoning around the proposed development is estates. It's E1 zoning, but there is a portion that is multifamily residential. So what is our definition of consistent? If there is some higher density that's touching the project, I could see how increasing the density of this parcel would be consistent. And then answering the question of, is the density suitable? That's where we get a lot of concerns and questions about traffic and infrastructure. But before I move on to that, I wanted to ask, I'm not sure if we have an answer to this, Mr. Conley, was the multifamily residential project, I think it was like 240 units, I think accessible through Breeze Hill. Do we know if that development was produced by right or if it was produced through a zone change? An increased density through a zone
The
change?
Breeze Hill Apartments that's behind the drugstore there? You're talking about the newer project that's behind the project,
No, I'm talking about the one that's abutting this proposed project.
the Charlemont condominiums.
Okay.
I believe that was built in the 80s, and I believe it was a conforming project that met the zoning at the time.
Okay, so that project that abuts the proposed parcel here was developed decades ago and was consistent and already part of the general plan and the zoning. Okay.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about traffic and infrastructure. It's really hard of a sell to think about this space as being very accessible via transit or something, or that even people who would live in these homes would opt for things like bicycles or e-bikes to get around town, or even imagining that this would be as walkable as of an area as we might hope that it is, right? I know that there's going to be a slight extension of the sidewalk that, you know, would go to serve the neighborhood of the development, and maybe some of the folks that are going to the school there. But we'd still need to see a lot of infrastructure and traffic improvements in order to kind of meet that criteria of what is a walkable, you know, transit-oriented area. One of the things I would absolutely support is reducing the speed on Melrose. So I know that's not something that we can ask the applicant to do, but when we're having these conversations, I am concerned about pedestrians and cyclists, and more people are venturing into getting e-bikes, and we don't have protected bike lanes along Melrose. We need them. We don't have safe speeds on Melrose. We could absolutely use a reduction in speeds to make that road more neighborhood friendly. I don't think that, a lot of the concerns about cut-through traffic as well, I think are totally valid. But I do have a question about the traffic study and it being 150 daily trips being the assumed amount of trips. How do we come to that understanding of that being the amount of trips we're expecting?
The San Diego Association of Governments has a trip generation study that was done probably 15 years ago that determines, based on averages of different projects that were surveyed, what different types of land uses generate in the way of traffic. For single-family residential, it's 10 average daily trips per unit for single-family residential. So that's what was applied.
Okay, thank you. And kind of along with the traffic question, I understand that the requirements for parking, because of the density bonus, would produce one affordable deed-restricted home, that the requirement is 23 parking spots, and the amount being offered is 60. Would you be able to tell me what would be the requirement if it weren't for that affordable home?
It would be 4 spaces per unit, 2 covered and 2 uncovered, so 60 would be required.
Okay. So we're still meeting that parking requirement, even though there is that affordable unit. And I am a huge supporter of affordable housing. I've advocated for affordable housing and inclusionary housing and smart growth and density throughout my time here. And I do think that it's a great effort of the applicant to bring forward a project that has the one affordable deed-restricted home, right? But that, in comparison to the surrounding market rate units, is really just a small drop in the bucket. It's not going to solve our housing instability issue that we have here in and of itself, right? Going forward with my concerns about being consistent with the general plan and the density being suitable for the site, I also wanted to talk a little bit about our general plan process. So we are about to venture into upgrading our general plan. Is that correct? And when would that process start?
We expect the public outreach to start early next year, and it's expected to be about a 2-year process to update the plan itself.
Okay. So we're just beginning the process. It doesn't mean that the zoning is going to change right away. But how long has the general plan been the way that it is now?
2012, last time it was updated.
Okay. So we're about to kind of set in stone a new set of expectations for development and growth and zoning in our city very soon. And the public is going to be able to take part in that and participate in that. And this parcel and this area may very well be ripe for higher density through our general plan process. Because we have the multifamily residential to one of the sides of this parcel, I can see that it may be conducive to increase the density here. But because it's not fully consistent within the area, we still see these larger estates and more sparse density in the surrounding area. And without the participation of the public, that zoning, we wouldn't know what's appropriate or not. That is why we have a process for changing our general plan. And we have a civic engagement process that allows people to participate in updating our general plan so that our growth can reflect the needs of the community. Overall, I'm not against developing in this area, but I am conflicted about how it's going to be consistent with the general plan and ensuring that the density is suitable. I think a lot of the questions about fire safety were answered. It sounds like fire safety could be improved in that area, but overall, single-family zoning is a huge risk factor when it comes to fire safety. So I'm critical of that as well. I think we have more speakers with my colleagues here, but I do want to say I appreciate everyone from the neighborhood that came out to share. This is part of what it looks like to field these changes in our community, right? We have processes like our general plan that keep things consistent, but we also have opportunities from developers that offer housing products that include affordable homes and are less dense than what has previously been recommended. So I think that there's not a lot, it's just really difficult, especially when we see too that there's open space available and that there's park space available, right? I just really wish this area was less congested, was safer and more walkable for everyone in that area. I'm concerned that one patch of sidewalk isn't going to make those kinds of improvements that the neighborhood would want to see. So I think that's all my comments for now. I appreciate you, Mr. Connolly, for answering my questions and the applicant for being here, and I'll leave it to my colleagues.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I want to thank all of the members of the community that came to share their thoughts with us. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate my colleagues raising a lot of good questions that were raised, and staff for answering the fire safety questions. You know, we're definitely in a period right now of change with regard to what the community wants and what this council wants with regard to density. My motto is we need to build enough housing for our kids, but not turn Vista into Los Angeles. I do not want to see high-rise, high-density overtake our single-family neighborhoods. And so when I have an opportunity to approve a quality single-family proposal that is 2 stories instead of 3, that is not ultra-high density, I look at that as a win, and I know that you don't necessarily look at it as a win right now, but we've had proposals that have been turned down, and 3 or 4 years later, something gets built that's much more dense. And so, you know, I really feel that this is this strikes a balance. It's not an apartment complex, and at some point in the future, it could be if it's not built as single-family homes. So, you know, I really do think it's a quality project. To me, it's very important that we're 25% lower than the average median income of the county of San Diego and Vista, which, you know, call it whatever you want. That means we have less money to work with. Vista's, has less revenues per capita than a lot of our neighbors. Our school system has less dollars to work with. To me, it's very important that we are bringing up the per capita tax base so that we can serve the interests of the children who live in Vista today. They're our constituents today. And so I think it's very important if we have the chance to build housing that's close to the median. This housing is below the county's average median home price. So even though it's expensive, it's not. It's less expensive than half of the houses in the county. So but I just still think it's bringing the area up, and I think it's a benefit in the end. So I do support the project, and as we're getting closer to the end of the discussion, I'll go ahead and offer a motion to approve staff recommendations 1 through 4, which opens and conducts the public hearing and approves the project.
And I,
Public hearing.
yeah, okay. And I actually agree with Deputy Mayor on a lot of things, and a lot of what you've said tonight, so I won't keep going on about it, but I just, I agree, you have made good comments. So, Councilmember Contreras.
Deputy Mayor Franklin, so you would move forward without conditioning the project, is that correct? You're not going to condition the private road to be paved?
You know, the question was raised about whether or not the truck can get down the road. The reality is the fire truck can get down the road. The issue is the fire truck can't get down the road without damaging the road. That's why the road's not at the private road standard. But it's not a matter of when there's a public safety emergency, they're going to go down the road and they're going to break the road. And that's going to be the issue of, but that's the same issue that the residents have today. So it's, as far as the safety concern, if they need to put a fire out, they can pull a hose. And if they really need to bring the truck right up to the front of the property, they can do that. It's just a matter of, you know, they're probably going to break the road, and then the residents are going to have to be repairing the road afterwards because the fire truck's heavy enough that if the road's not to standard, it could damage it. Not necessarily damage it, but it could. So I don't understand. It's not the evil rich guy that owns the property that you're making pay for in perpetuity. If we make the people who buy these 15 homes pay for these other people's private street in perpetuity, you're just putting a tax on those 15 families. And I don't know what those 15 families did to have to deserve to pay to pave somebody else's road that they never drive on in their entire lives. I can't make any sense of that, so I couldn't support that condition.
Okay, and there's no condition for extra traffic mitigation as well, right? You want to approve it outright?
Do you have an idea of what you'd like to add in as a mitigation?
No, I don't.
I would be open to your suggestions, but if you have none, then I would approve
Yeah,
it
that's
as
something I think
proposed.
that we would have to have addressed in a different format, right? I don't know if that's, I have a hard time approving this project without any additional conditions. That's kind of where I'm at. So, I mean, we talked about curb bulb out. You know, I don't know how long this section is without a stop sign or what the relative speed is. So I'm having a hard time without any conditions on this project supporting it. So that's just where I'm at.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Truth is, Mr. Super Community Master Planner John Conley, from a speed mitigation standpoint, if we wanted to add like rumble strips and like, no rumble strips? No, okay, I like you shake, this is good.
No.
If we wanted to as a city, I mean, like, it would be something we would do, not the developer would do, or is that something that we?
Well, we could absolutely look at Melrose Way for speed control, but there are a number of city streets that suffer from similar speeding issues, so it would really be prioritization of where you'd want to spend those dollars.
Yeah.
My experience for speed control, speed bumps are off the table. Things you're going to put in the road that people have to drive over are really off the table. The only real effective things that we've seen to slow people down, look at Vail Terrace Drive, roundabouts, and stop signs. Those seem to be the two most effective means of slowing traffic.
I love roundabouts.
Absent those, there's really not a lot you can
Love
do to
them.
slow people down.
Love them. All right. So we can't do much. So this is what I'd like to do. Is there a way, city manager, Mr. City Attorney, that we could approve this, because I like the project, but I would like to condition the city to do a traffic study on Melrose Way to figure out if, really what the traffic issues are, figure out what the times are. It could also be a deal of, like on Foothill Drive, when we did a traffic study, and maybe this is just something we can do aside from this, but when we did a traffic study on Foothill Drive, it actually did tell us that, hey, there's these certain hours where people are flying down the street. And this is when we should probably have it, have a traffic. I mean, I think we actually have scheduled traffic enforcement now at a special time in that neck of the woods. Like anything we could do to mitigate traffic as a city. I just feel like we are obviously doing something good here, in my opinion, which is why I do think we should approve it. But at the same token, I need to be a responsible elected official and say, hey, these people have come and said, hey, the people are flying down this road. What can you do about it? Nothing's been done about it.
So that would be a separate action that the city would have to undertake to evaluate the roadway and make recommendations.
Okay, sounds good. Well, with that, I'm going to second the motion as presented and call for a vote. Oh, sorry, after Councilwoman Contreras speaks.
Okay, Councilmember Contreras.
So a question regarding speed mitigation and a traffic study. Is there a way to, I know that the applicant is not doing a traffic study because it doesn't, the amount of trips daily don't require a traffic study, but could that be a condition, or would we be unable to put a condition that they pay for? I don't want to pay for a traffic study if the applicant can fund that for the city.
So a traffic study is not going to tell us how to slow traffic down. It's just going to tell you what the impact of the project's traffic will be on the surrounding roadways. And I can tell you from my experience and the volumes that are out there, it's not going to have an impact that's going to require mitigation.
Okay.
So if the council really wants to look at Melrose Way to slow speed down, we need to look at it from a traffic engineering perspective and bring back some recommendations to council and undertake it as a city project. It's really not something you can impose on this developer unless you have a specific improvement in mind that you'd like to impose as a condition.
So if the council was like, we are conditioning this we're going to allow this project to move forward, but we're going to condition a traffic circle, or we're going to condition a stop sign, even if we don't have that information to justify that right now, would that be permissible?
No, I believe it wouldn't. I'm referring to the city attorney here.
Yeah, the kind of conditions you're talking about, there has to be some real nexus between the project and the mitigation efforts you're describing, because there's going to be a benefit to the whole area, not just this one property. So there has to be proportionality, appropriateness, reasonableness with this. So we're really talking, as Mr. Connolly says, about a city traffic project, not specific to this one, proposed development.
Okay. And I guess this is a question for the applicant. If we were to condition, even if the private property owners don't want it, but if we were to condition that the private road be paved, is that going to increase the price of the homes that you're going to be selling?
It will absolutely have an increase on the overall cost of the project. What's paving these days? I mean, it's going to be, I can't estimate that right now, but that's a long stretch of road. And you're having to remove it, recompact, and lay it all down again. So it's not a small cost.
It's not a small cost, like it would be like $200,000.
Do you have any kind of ballpark? $500,000 to $750,000.
Okay. Okay, yeah, this is a really tough project because in one sense it's contiguous, in one sense it's not contiguous, and then we're not putting any conditions on the developer, which I always have an issue with because there's so many different things that we can look at conditioning. So I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to vote on this.
Well, I think you called for the vote, so we're going to.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
We could take another minute. Are there any conditions that you'd like to suggest?
She isn't up there.
Is there electric vehicle charging proposed in this?
State law requires that new single-family homes be provided the ability to install electric vehicle charging in the garage of the unit.
So these will all come with the ability to charge an EV.
They'll be plumbed for it, so to speak, but the owners would be responsible for actually installing the improvement.
Okay. I just wish that I could say, you need to put a traffic circle. I know people hate them, but it's one of the very few features that force you to slow down.
No, please don't join the conversation right now.
I actually have. I've been in Vista for 34 years and I've driven a ton.
Let's not have a discussion with the audience.
In this case, with the amount of time that I have to make a decision and the fact that you don't want to condition the private road, which I understand now, we had a very thorough discussion and I actually have a really good understanding that this is an improvement for fire hazards, just the way it is, even if we don't condition that private road. And I can't justify putting a stop sign there right now either, where we could save $150. So
We would have to study the intersection or location of a stop sign and bring that back to council as a city improvement, unless it were for the private street serving this project.
Well, I will just say this on the record that I am all in favor of doing an actual study at the city level because the cut-through traffic situation that we have throughout the city of Vista is absolutely ridiculous. And I have cars flying into homes in my area, and that's definitely not safe. So vehicular speeds are out of control in the city of Vista. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to just impose something on the developer when it comes to traffic mitigation because we don't have the information for it. So, okay, that's it. I can't think of anything else right now. They have green space. Is this a tot lot
Yes,
in the park?
in the north end of the private
Yeah.
street.
Okay. Oh, yes, a splash pad would be great. I would say that the more site-suitable native plants possible there, I'm all in favor of that. Okay, that's it. That's it for me.
The only thing I think about on that access, we keep talking about, is I've been in the county and I've traveled dirt roads a lot of places. An emergency exit is an emergency exit. It doesn't have to be a regular paved, striped, or whatever road. It just, even if it's dirt, you can get out, as long as you can get through that road and get out. I don't worry about the fire trucks coming in, because that would be the people that live there, because the fire trucks have access to this project. So I worry about the access if there's an emergency to get out of there. And it would help them also to get out through our road if they had to get out of there. So if it's even if it's a two-lane dirt road, cow pasture, you can drive your car down there and get out. That's the important thing, the safety-wise. That in my opinion. So, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm just kind of close, just because the community's here. I just want to, as far as the timing, I mean,
Did you find something?
No. I mean, we heard from the developer their plan in January, and staff's been reviewing it since sometime immediately following that. And so this is something that the council has been thinking about for some near 8 months now. I've certainly been aware of the project all that time, and though really just making a final decision this evening, I think. We have been thinking about it. So in terms of your question about conditions, nothing came up in the 8 months of inquiry that as you could see, as all the questions that were raised have really been asked and answered. And I think, this developer wasn't required to build any affordable, but did. They provided ample parking, and they've really, I think, worked to address a lot of the concerns that we would have. So that's why I'm at where I'm at.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I do understand that there's limitations. If this is approved, then it's approved kind of as is, right? And that's why it's such a conflicting decision, because there's limitations on the kind of conditions we can put on it. We heard that in regards to ADUs, we can't add a buffer that would restrict someone's right to build an ADU. We can't condition it with a homeowners association agreement. The traffic, right? It has to be part of a city engineering plan. I wanted to ask, I'm glad you brought up the green space, that there's a small portion of green space here. What is our flexibility in conditioning further green space? I don't know where it would be put, right? Or what would even be possible in the design. But because my major concern with making this decision is having that consistency with the general plan, we do see a large amount of open space in the surrounding areas. So do we have flexibility there to condition more space?
The only way you could do that, in my opinion, would be to lose lots, but you could ask the developer to do that as part of your motion. I mean, there's no other place to put green space. The street is at the minimum standard. The other area that is open space is for capturing their drainage and treating it, which is required under state law. So what they've provided in the way of the open space area there on the north end is all that's available unless you were to take lots out of the project.
And if we were to take lots out of the project, that would kind of remove the point of the density bonus and some of these other conditions that allow for higher density. And would we still see that affordable home?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on how you'd want to approach it, but the affordable unit would still be a calculation based on the number of lots that are provided.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure how we would do it, but that's the big thing for me, is being consistent with the general plan and seeing, that there's a desire to develop this parcel, and there's also interest from the residents to be consistent with that open space. And I would like to prioritize keeping that one deed restricted home. And if that is one of the few areas where we have ability to make greater conditions, it's always about, right, give and take. Everybody's going to be unhappy at the end of this decision, right? So I don't know if we want to consider that, my colleagues, to look at ways we could adapt the design to allow for a little bit more green space. But that would be my offer to the conversation.
Seeing no more offers, could I ask for the vote? Please, okay. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 4-1. So that takes care of that. Do we have any? That takes us to our oral communications, and we have one speaker for the oral communications. Oh my gosh, I can't read this. Mr. Firefighters, Michael Saldana.
Just let everyone get gone first. What was that? Oh.
I can clear a room out.
Okay, we're ready.
All right. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members, my name is Michael Saldana. I'm a firefighter paramedic for the City of Vista, as well as a director on the Vista Firefighters Association Executive Board. Data is key in helping communities understand true risk. The data has shown that we need a fully staffed Fire Prevention Bureau to prioritize local risks, followed by the integrated and strategic investment of resources to reduce their occurrence and impact. This is essential for building and maintaining resilience within our community. This additional fire inspector position will no doubt assist in those crucial endeavors. Your generous investment will create a safer environment for not only your firefighters, but for those we all serve. The addition of this inspector will support increased fire inspections on existing buildings, the issuing of fire code and special activity permits, as well as the investigation of fires and complaints from the general public about potential fire hazard conditions. The VFFA hopes this investment is the beginning of a trend that will fully restore a fire prevention bureau that will be successful in meeting SB 1205 requirements, administering our weed abatement program, which helps monitor safe clearance in the interface areas between wildland and our communities, and will also be able to increase the delivery of fire and life safety education to our schools and the public once again. The VFFA thanks each one of you for supporting the work our members, your firefighters, do in serving our community every day. Thank you.
Thank you. That is our only speaker, so we'll go to remarks. So I'll do mine first. I always feel like a newscaster when I make remarks. I'm not a very good one. So the Vista Sheriff Station is hosting a free car seat inspection this Friday, August 26th from 9 to 1 here in the Civic Center parking lot. No registration is required, and I think they're doing some of them today, because I pulled in today and there were some people doing car seats for kids out there today. The second thing I already said, the Vista Sheriff Station is also hosting a Guns for Gift Cards event this Sunday, August 28th from 9 to 2 at the Vista Traffic Court parking lot. Participants can turn in their unwanted gun for gift card. And on Thursday, September 1st from 10 to 12 noon, the Veterans Village of San Diego will host an information table at the Vista Library. The public is welcome to that. Also want to say congratulations to the Vista Girls Softball 2022 8U Gold All-Star State and District Champions for taking first place at the SoCal C District and State tournaments for the first time in Vista Girls Softball history. Yay, girls. And I actually have all their names. I want to read their names. I thought that would be important for the girls here. So LaCalyana Garrett, number 43, Skylar Burnett, number 22, Kennedy Torres, number 19, Mia Hernandez, number 3, Amelia Rich Creek, number 13, I think it's Tati Corcuria, number 99, Gwen Anderson, number 94, Alana McCain, number 11, Aaliyah Barrera, number 20, Ari Ponce, number 15, Sophia O'Neill, number 7, Charlotte Cleghorn, number 1, and Peyton Joe Allen, number 27. So congratulations to the girls for their, for the first time in history. Yeah, so amazing. And then one other thing I wanted, this is kind of my own thing I stuck on here. I wanted to recognize a couple of urgent cares for pets. This is because my dog this weekend got, he got into some Mucilix, a little package of Mucilix that was on the counter, and he ate some of the paper, ate it, and in it were raisins. And so I called my vet, this was Sunday, I called my vet, and they said, oh, you have to be concerned. And so I took him, I had to take him to the emergency, and I took him to the, San Marcos has a new urgent care on Sunday, and they're open Saturdays and Sundays. They're on Rancho Santa Fe Road. It's called Surgipet Urgent Care, and so they had to give him a shot and have him throw up, and they had to do all that stuff because it's very serious. It can cause renal kidney failure if they get. And I know that the vet said that she had a great day and they just ate one that had renal failure, and it killed him. And then there's another little dog that had 9 and it didn't, and he was okay. So it depends on the dog. So anyway, so my dog was there until they closed at 10 o'clock Sunday night, so I had to take my dog from there down to emergency vet in Encinitas. It's called the Veterinary Emergency Group, and they're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So if you ever have to go there, they've been treating him wonderful. They have a pen for him, but did you know they're allergic to not allergic, but they can cause that. Grapes, raisins, garlic, chocolate, onions, all those things are very serious for animals. If people don't, I think people don't know that. And so tonight, my dog is still there. I was supposed to pick him up tonight, and they called and told me that he's not. All of a sudden, he's not doing well. That his creatine is higher or something, and so I had to leave him again tonight. So I have a Mastiff. He's a year-old little puppy. He's not a puppy. He's a 130-pound puppy. but so anyway, he's down there, and they've had him down there since. So he's been since Sunday down from there and then down in Encinitas. So anyway, I wanted to just share that. So I wanted to give a shout out to the Veterinary Emergency Group in Encinitas and to the Surgipet Urgent Care on Rancho Santa Fe Road in San Marcos. They have been wonderful in treating the dogs. So anybody that needs that, they should take their pets to those people. So with that, I will go down and I'll start with Deputy Mayor.
Nothing else tonight, except that I hope your dog's doing better and back home with you tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. I love my dog. Okay, how about Councilmember Green?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank all the community who showed up. Also want to thank Mr. Saldana, Miss Tony for showing up, sticking out the whole meeting. Yeah. Thank you guys so much, and thank you and your firefighters for all you do. In addition, that new fire inspector is going to help with new real estate law in the state of California and that new $50 fee that we just installed, because with the high fire hazard properties, those all have to be inspected now in order to close escrow. So great work by the council, great work by the staff. Thank you so much for adding that position. It is still Taco Tuesday. It's only 8:27, and within the next hour, I'm going to take down a bunch of tacos. So if you're listening and you want tacos, come to Vista. They're here, and they're hot and ready, and they're not pizza. Oh, shout out to VGS 8U. Go Girls, Vista. What?
Yes, okay. Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, I'm super excited that we're going to grow our fire prevention because I keep getting kitchen fires in my district. And now the place that I could go walking distance to get food is like totally shut down.
Oh no.
So you got Coyote Cafe, right? You got the taco shop.
They closed? The Coyote Cafe closed?
Yeah, it's like closed until further notice because the fire was so bad at Gordy's.
Oh my gosh.
The only thing on that strip that's open is the market. So thank goodness that stayed open. So I don't know when these businesses are going to come back, but it's really bad, right? And then I had, where the permanent supportive housing is going to go, that whole thing burnt down.
What's
right?
causing so many fires lately in businesses like that? I wonder.
Right. So that's where it's really crucial for us to be able to inspect these businesses, especially in some of these older buildings, because it's really hazardous for that material to catch on fire. And 2, now I have less options within walking distance for food, which, other people probably don't care. But, these businesses have been here forever. And to see them go through these hurdles, it makes me really sad. So I'm glad that we're growing our fire prevention folks because this is something that we definitely have to take seriously, especially with our older properties, commercial properties. But with that, trash pickup tomorrow. I'll be there 8 a.m. Luz Duran Park. And then outside of that, I will say that I am the chair of the RECE committee at North County Transit District. That is the Rail Safety and Community Enhancement Committee. It's brand spanking new. And with that, I will be advocating real hard for the city of Vista to get funds from the state and the federal government to actually do some improvements on the Sprinter line. So the more people that can put pressure and try to make this happen, the better. And I appreciate that our assistant city manager, Amanda Lee, is going to be on there, and engineer Greg Myers is going to be on there. And so we can really tackle some of these issues, because when we're talking about issues with fire and first responders, that Vista Village, I mean, we need to double track the Sprinter, but that's every 15 minutes those little hands are going to go down. It's just going to be a nightmare. So we really need a grade separation. I've already been telling Congressman Mike Levin, I talked to him about that, and now I'm going to be fighting for that, not just for Vista, but for the Coaster and the Sprinter. So anyways, any questions that the community has about enhancing our community, quiet zones, grade separations, that kind of stuff, you know where to find me. Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thanks, everyone, for a great discussion. I just want to say thank you to Mayor Judy Ritter for the opportunity to be the alternate on the Clean Energy Alliance board. So tomorrow, myself and Councilmember Joe Green get to be sworn in on the Clean Energy Alliance. He is the primary, I'm the alternate, and we're going to learn a lot and make some good advocacy for Vista happen, so that we can have clean energy and fair say in the Alliance. And I'm just really excited for the opportunity. So get to be sworn in tomorrow, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, good. Good job. Oh, City Manager Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item tonight. Excuse me. The Vista Library and City Hall will be closed on Labor Day, which is Monday, so trash service will be delayed one day that week.
Right, so that's not next Monday, it's a week from Monday.
A week from Monday, September 2nd, yes.
Right, okay. And Walter?
I just
Sorry,
want to.
Our new city attorney?
I just want to say thank you for the appointment as your new city attorney. I look forward to working with each and every one of you and all of city staff to make Vista a better place.
Yay. How about our city clerk? Assistant city clerk down there? No, Kathy or Claire? Okay, with that, what time is it? 8:32, we are adjourned.
No, it's 8:32.
You're right. Our clock is 2 minutes